Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening. We're fully prepared on this end. What do you mean? Ishiki immediately turned toward him. Get ready for a big surprise. Smiling, Kaido waved his hand, and before Ishiki could charge, he and Gata, along with Sasuke, were enveloped in golden liquid and merged into the ground. Ishiki shattered the barrier with a kick, but... Chapter 161, on the battlefield, white light silently expanded, forming a sphere. The white sphere gradually grew larger, and when it touched the edges of the formation, it suddenly contracted, eventually dissipating slowly. Only then did the sound of the explosion reach everyone's ears. As they looked around, the numerous black cubes had disappeared without a trace, and Ishiki was quietly standing at the center of the formation. His clothes had completely vanished, his body was covered in wounds, and he had lost his left hand. At this moment, his eyes were closed as if he had fallen into a deep sleep. However, the terrifying wounds on his body were slowly healing, and even new flesh was growing from the shoulder where his left hand had been lost. Upon seeing this, Kaito immediately descended from the air and once again clapped his hands onto the ground. Ramyaku chains within the formation moved again. Several golden chains with sharp ends shot out like venomous snakes, quickly penetrating Ishiki's body. Then, more chains reached out, binding him tightly. Did we succeed? Sasuke walked over to Kaito, looking at the completely restrained Ishiki inside the formation. It's hard to say. Kaito didn't relax. Indeed. Izuna also walked over. That guy can reincarnate his consciousness. We should be extra cautious. TCH, does this mean these Otsutsuki clan members can't be killed completely? Madara rested his large fan on the ground, frowning slightly. It seems so for now, or rather, we haven't found a way to kill them completely. Kaito said. But I got some inspiration from that ancient stone tablet. What do you mean? Izuna asked curiously. Kaito smiled. By separating the body and soul and sealing them. That stone tablet? Madara raised an eyebrow. Izuna immediately started explaining in a low voice. After hearing the explanation, Madara nodded but said. Sealing is always a temporary measure. If someone breaks the seal in the future, it could cause trouble. I'll use a Ramyaku crystal to seal his soul and hand it over to the master. That way, it will be foolproof. Kaito said confidently. The master? Madara glanced at Izuna again. As Izuna explained once more to Madara, Kaito began forming hand seals. Ramyaku soul lock. As he clapped his hands on the ground again, several faint, golden chains emerged from the earth, piercing directly into Ishiki's body. You! At that moment, Ishiki opened his eyes, staring menacingly at Kaito. I underestimated you, Onmyoji. Of course, I prepared thoroughly just to deal with you. Kaito responded without hesitation. I will not die. Ishiki suddenly laughed. This time, you win. But just wait. More Otsutsuki clan members will come. You lower creatures will never escape your fate of being enslaved by us. Is that so? Kaito laughed as well. The future might not turn out the way you think. Ishiki wanted to say more, but the spectral chains began to move. The chains wrapped around his soul, dragging it out of his body. Then, more physical Ramyaku chains slithered through the air, surrounding both his body and soul, encasing them into 2 separate spheres. Seal. Golden light burst from Kaito's body, and the 2 chain-formed spheres within the formation began to melt slowly. Both Ishiki's body and soul were pierced by the chains, wrapped in 2 translucent golden liquids. Finally, the liquid gradually compressed and hardened, forming 2 crystalline, transparent gems. Runes that looked as if they had formed naturally shimmered on the surface of the crystals. Kaito stood up slowly, pressing both hands against the glowing barrier of the formation. The massive formation that enveloped the entire island slowly faded away. The 5 yokai who had been maintaining the formation with all their power collapsed to the ground as their energy was completely drained. The other yokai rushed forward anxiously to check on them. Gather them all together. Kaito instructed. In no time, the smaller yokai, who had been standing by outside the formation, carried the 5 collapsed yokai over to Kaido. Kaido immediately pulled out 5 small Ramyaku crystals, arranging them carefully on the ground, and then started forming hand seals once again. Ramyaku Resurrection Formation. Golden light enveloped their bodies, and as the Ramyaku crystals melted, the 5 yokai slowly opened their eyes. I declare. Kaito raised his hand with a smile. The plan was a success. We have won. Yeah. The small yokai cheered instantly, dancing with joy. The 5 yokai lying on the ground also smiled. Kaido. Kaido turned around, and Yuri rushed into his arms. Kaido, it's such a relief. She looked up at him, tears in her eyes, gently touching the spot on his chest where the black rods had pierced him earlier. I was so worried. You were seriously injured just now. I'm fine. Kaido gazed into her clear, watery eyes, and a tender smile appeared on his face. Don't worry. Anything I set my mind to will definitely succeed. Yes, I believe in you, Kaido. Yuri smiled back. Hey, Yuri, aren't you being a little too lovey-dovey here? Can't you see we're still lying here? Chiri suddenly teased loudly from nearby. Maybe butterflies care more about their partners? Corey speculated earnestly. Who says that? Yuri blushed and pushed away from Kaido, rushing over to Chiri's side to pat her on the head. You all should focus on recovering. Ha ha ha. Sato laughed heartily. It's fine. Compared to us, Kaido is the real hero here. Sato is exaggerating. This is the result of everyone's hard work. Kaito said with a smile. In this plan, we couldn't have succeeded without any one of you. Finally. Tears welled up in Sato's eyes. We finally defeated an Otsutsuki. Thank you, Kaido. I told you, it's thanks to all of us. Kaido waved his hand dismissively and headed toward the center of the island. Now, I'll go take care of that seal. Hearing this, several small yokai quickly followed after him. My wine is finished? Yuta, seemingly oblivious to the situation, struggled to get up and peered into his empty wine jar. Onikiri, sitting up with his sword in hand, glanced at everyone, a faint smile on his lips. That kid is doing quite well here. Madara remarked, watching Kaito surrounded by yokai. Yeah. Izuna smiled too. He's walking a different path from us now. I look forward to seeing what he will achieve in the end. Hey, thanks to that kid, it seems my journey is far from over as well. Madara crossed his arms and looked up at the sky. Perhaps the future journey will lead us to the stars and the sea? I'll go wherever my brother goes. Izuna looked up as well. No matter where that may be. Yeah. Madara smiled and ruffled Izuna's hair. Ugh. These 2 old men are so mushy. Sasuke shivered, silently slipping away to catch up with Kaido. Chapter 162. Kaito walked up to the crystal that sealed the soul of Otsutsuki Ishiki and stomped his foot. Golden ripples instantly appeared on the ground around the crystal, and several chains of Ramyaku extended out, binding the crystal and pulling it into the ground. Kaito sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes. In the endless darkness, Kaito's consciousness kept sinking, once again arriving at the golden river bank. Master Siimai. Kaito called softly. The sound of water rippling filled the air, and a figure appeared on the golden river's surface. You've come. Siimai revealed his true face, smiling elegantly. Master Siimai, I must trouble you once again. Kaito bowed respectfully. I've seen everything. Siimai said as he waved his fan. You've done very well. You flatter me. It just so happened that Otsutsuki Ishiki wasn't in his prime. Kaito said modestly. No, even I hadn't noticed that he was still hiding in this world. Siimai smiled. It's a good thing you dealt with him before Kaguya returned. Yes. Kaito responded. It's said that in his original state, he was even stronger than Kaguya. Siimai nodded. That's true, but Kaguya became much stronger after consuming the god tree's fruit. This time, I'd like to ask you to guard the seal on his soul. Kaito extended his hand, and space rippled like waves. The crystal containing Otsutsuki Ishiki's sealed soul appeared before him. Leave it to me. Siimai said, extending his fan to pull the crystal beside him. At the same time, a large box floated out of the golden river. The box of ultimate bliss has been purified. You can take it now. Thank you, Master Siimai. Golden chains extended from Kaito's hand as he pulled the box of ultimate bliss toward him. No need for thanks. Siimai smiled again. So, how do you plan to handle the seal on Ishiki's body? I've already decided. Kaito said honestly. I'll leave it to Lord Moavama. Mao, huh? Siimai thought for a moment before agreeing. That works. His true form can suppress the seal. It's a pity we haven't found a way to completely destroy the Otsutsuki clan. Kaito said with some regret. There is a way to completely kill the Otsutsuki. Siimai closed his fan and nodded at Kaito. I'm sure you've thought of the method too. It's just a matter of whether you can do it. Kaito sighed. I'll do my best. Siamai's face showed a sly smile. Well then, until next time, Kaito. With those words, he sank back into the golden river with the sealed crystal. Kaito looked at the calm river, twitching at the corner of his mouth. He actually wanted to say, I really don't want to try that hard. Couldn't you just tell me the method? Kaito opened his eyes and nodded at the people around him. It's been taken care of. He walked over to another sealed crystal. As for this one, I'll leave it to Lord Mo. To Lord Mo? Then there won't be any problems. Gyur stepped forward, poking at the crystal surface. Honestly, putting it anywhere in Amma would be safe. No yokai would dare destroy this seal. Smack. Futa slapped his hand away, glaring at him. Isn't there someone like you here, always needing to touch things? You're like a hairless cub. What? Gyur quickly hid his hands behind his back. You're overreacting. I wouldn't break it. Humphrey, you're just itching to touch it. Futa raised his chin. Sasuke. Gyur grabbed Sasuke nearby. Help me out here. Futa's totally overreacting. Sasuke looked at them, both familiar yokai to him. One always challenged him in the dojo, and the other once helped him travel to the shinobi world. In the end, Gyur was the cuter one. So Sasuke gave a fair statement, Gyur's just curious. He won't break it. You're overreacting, Futa. Exactly. Gyur raised his head proudly. Futa, you'll end up friendless if you keep this up. Humphrey, I don't want to be friends with you two anyway. Futa fluffed up all the feathers on his wings in anger. One is always slacking off, and the other has trained in swordsmanship for so long but still hasn't mastered it. Gyur wasn't bothered by the criticism, but Sasuke's face flushed red with anger. What did you say? He activated his Sharingan and glared at Futa. Are you looking for a fight? Bring it on. Futa gripped his sword. Today I'll show you who is the true disciple of Master Onikiri. Fight. Fight. Gyur and the other small yokai cheered excitedly, clapping their hands. Enough. Kaito, exasperated, knocked both Futa and Sasuke on the head. You two are acting like children. Seeing Futa get hit, Gyur secretly made a face at him. And you? Kaito wasn't partial and gave Gyur a knock on the head as well. Don't think I didn't see you stirring things up. Don't bully idiots. Who are you calling an idiot? Futa and Sasuke yelled in unison. It's you too. Kaito yelled back. Especially you, Sasuke. The argument was originally between Futa and Gyur, but you jumped in and attracted all the heat. Didn't you notice how happy Gyur was afterward? Sasuke thought about it for a moment, then pointed at Gyur in shock. You sly fox. Futa also realized what had happened and looked at Gyur with disdain. Gyur stuck his tongue out at the two. Alright, let's head back. We need to return to Alma as soon as possible. Kaito ignored them and manipulated Ryomaku chains to pull the remaining sealed crystal underground before turning and walking toward the resting place of the other yokai. That night, the group emerged from the forest where Lord Mo resided. Kaito and Yuri walked toward the Uchiha estate together. Kaito, what's your plan next? Yuri asked, holding onto his arm and looking up at his face. Kaito turned his head. I've been too busy recently. I need to contact the blood puppets and check on the Akatsuki's plan to capture the tailed beasts. The tailed beasts, huh? Yuri nodded. They're strange creatures. I wonder if they'll eventually become yokai? No one can say for sure what the final outcome will be. Kaito smiled. It's too early to tell. After all, the tailed beasts are made of chakra, completely different from yokai. By the way, why are you collecting the tailed beast's chakra? Yuri asked, gently shaking his hand. To study the god tree more thoroughly, of course. Kaito looked up at the moon in the night sky. Now that I have the god tree's body and its consciousness, all I need is the god tree's chakra. Speaking of which, Kaito suddenly thought of something and met Yuri's gaze. For the Otsutsuki clan, the god tree may not be unique. Do you think Otsutsuki Ishiki might have another god tree sapling? That doesn't seem likely. He didn't use it in the previous battle. Yuri said, though the possibility unsettled her. That's because the formation I set up this time was different from the one I used during the battle with Nagato. It completely blocked the space, rendering Otsutsuki Ishiki's space-time abilities useless. Kaito spoke seriously. Even if he has another god tree, he couldn't summon it. So, we can't rule out the possibility. Yuri was confused. But didn't you summon Chiri and Izuna during the battle? As the one who set up the formation, of course, I left a back door for myself. Kaito said, smiling with pride. I understand. Yuri nodded slightly. But even if Ishiki has another chakra tree, it's likely hidden in a different dimension. It won't be easy for us to find. True, but it's good to be prepared. Kaido grabbed Yurai's hand and flew into the air. Let's not think about this for now. Let's hurry back. Miss Cherry prepared some supper, and Sasuke is waiting for us. Humphrey, you're the one who started this conversation. Countless glittering particles surrounded Yurei as radiant butterfly wings unfolded, and she pulled Kaido along as they sped toward the Uchiha estate. Chapter 163, Mount Hama, Uchiha Residence. On the wooden floor of the corridor, Kaido and Madara sat facing each other. I didn't expect that Izuna-senpai would be willing to go out with Sasuke. Kaido knelt properly on the cushion, lifted the teacup to his nose, smelled it, and took a sip. Madara was sitting lazily, leaning against a corridor pillar, with the sunlight illuminating the half of his face not covered by his hair. What are you trying to say, kid? He asked lazily. You thought he'd cling to me like a child? Not that extreme. Kaido smiled warmly. It's just that it's been a long time since you two brothers have spent time together. TSK, don't be fake. Madara squinted slightly at Kaido. Unlike me, you're now the clan leader, so Izuna will respect your wishes. I didn't mean that. Kaido replied modestly. Madara tapped his fingers on the wooden floor, seemingly a bit impatient, and said. Just get to the point. What do you need help with? Nagato's Rinnegan belongs to you, doesn't it? Kaido put down the teacup, sitting up straighter. That's right. Madara responded casually. Do you want to take it back? No, not yet. Kaido said. Now isn't the right time. Madara suddenly thought of something and asked. Why didn't you take Otsutsuki Ishiki's eye? Kaido shook his head. Otsutsuki Ishiki was only temporarily resurrected. That body could collapse at any time, there's no point. Besides, without fully understanding his possession abilities, I wouldn't dare recklessly touch his body tissue. I see. That makes sense. Madara nodded and then activated his Rinnegan. So, are you interested in my eyes? More precisely, I'm interested in the Hell Path's ability. I need the shell of the King of Hell summoned by the Hell Path. Kaido explained honestly. Is it that Pain's 6 paths Nagato created? Izuna mentioned it. It's kind of interesting. Though Madara called it interesting, his tone was indifferent. Unfortunately, the contract with that so-called King of Hell was made by that kid Nagato. Isn't it an inherent ability of the Rinnegan? Kaido was a bit surprised. Madara scoffed without mercy. You want a shortcut, don't you? Too bad, I can't help you. Kaido's shoulders slumped. What's going on? Abilities have to be developed. Did you think the animal summoned by the animal path came pre-summoned? Madara mocked. Don't be naive. Those summoning beasts were all collected and modified by that kid. I thought the King of Hell's body was directly summoned from the Pure Land. Kaido said awkwardly. Humphrey, just like he didn't develop Limbo, Border Jail, I didn't develop those other messy abilities. Madara continued. So if you want to know where that so-called King of Hell came from, you'll need to ask Nagato. I understand. Kaido sighed, feeling a bit dejected. I thought I could save some effort at the last step. Hey. Madara chuckled with a trace of schadenfreude. Brother, Kaido. Izuna came out with Sasuke, who was dressed neatly. We're about to leave. Madara responded casually. Kaido stood up and said to Sasuke. Last time, you had to come back shortly after leaving. To save time, this time I'll ask the 4th Hokage to take you out. The 4th? Sasuke asked in surprise. The Flying Thunder God technique is hard to guard against. Aren't you worried he'll leave a mark in Mount Hama? Izuna asked suspiciously. I don't believe you trust that kid completely. That's true. Kaido smiled. Even though we signed a contract, it's not completely foolproof. That's why we'll ask Gyur to help first and take us somewhere else. You all go ahead. Madara stood up, patted Izuna on the shoulder, and walked back inside. I'm going to read in the study. Alright, let's go then. Kaido casually put his hands in his sleeves, walked down the corridor, put on his sandals, and headed outside. Izuna transformed into a paper figure and slipped into Sasuke's ninja tool pouch. Sasuke quickly put on his shoes and followed Kaido. Half a day later, the uncle and nephew pair, riding on Gyur's back, arrived at a strange little island. This place will do, we're far enough from Mount Hama. Kaido and Sasuke jumped off Gyur's back and surveyed the island. Gyur transformed into human form and stretched his limbs. Kaido, you've got plenty of ways to get out. I'm never helping you again. Gyur complained. Nonsense, I only started working with Minato later. Kaido retorted, slapping the ground with one hand, summoning a domestic-looking Minato, holding a frying pan and wearing an apron. Kaido's face twitched, finding it hard to describe. Yo, Minato-kun, why are you always summoned in such a homely look? Kaido. I don't know why you always summon me when I'm cooking. Minato smiled awkwardly. Ah, sorry. Kaido apologized awkwardly. There's a reason for this. Is there? Minato forced a smile. So, do you need help, or has that better possession vessel you mentioned been completed? Sorry, not yet. Kaito admitted defeat without hesitation. Even if he had it, now wasn't the time to bring it up. He pulled Sasuke over and explained. Actually, I summoned you to take this kid Sasuke back to the ninja world. Sasuke Uchiha. Minato's smile became more natural. Naruto talks about you often. Fourth Hokage-sama. Sasuke greeted politely. Haha, just call me Uncle Minato. Minato waved his hand. I'm no longer Hokage, so just think of me as a friend's father. Yes, Uncle Minato. Good kid. Let's go then. I left the stove on back home. In a flash, Minato grabbed Sasuke's shoulder, and the two disappeared from Kaido's sight. Wait. Kaito reached out in vain. What's wrong, Kaido? Gear asked curiously as Kaido remained still. I wasn't done talking. Minato was in such a hurry. Kaido had a strange expression. He probably took Sasuke straight to Hidden Leaf Village. Ha 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 ha. Gear laughed gleefully. After all, even he knew the relationship between the Uchiha and Hidden Leaf Village was a bit delicate. Never mind. Kaido shrugged it off. Sasuke won't be in any danger. As for everything else, consider it training for him. You're quite the good uncle, Kaido. Gear sympathized with Sasuke for a second. You really care about him? Of course. Kaito said proudly, lifting his chin. Chapter 164, in Hidden Leaf Village, at the Namikaze residence. Naruto watched helplessly as his father, who was cooking, suddenly vanished without a trace. He was anxiously pacing around when he saw his father reappear right in front of him, bringing along someone Naruto was very familiar with. Dad. Sasuke? Naruto widened his eyes in surprise. What's going on? We'll talk about it later. Naruto, for now, just take care of your friend. Minato said, pushing Sasuke toward Naruto before rushing back toward the kitchen. My food, my food. Sasuke looked at Minato's retreating figure, then turned his gaze to the flustered Naruto, feeling somewhat bewildered. Sasuke. Naruto approached Sasuke, looking at him excitedly. Are you finally ready to come back to Hidden Leaf Village? Sasuke opened his mouth and spoke with some difficulty. Where is this? Naruto waved his hand in front of Sasuke's face and said loudly. Are you stupid? Of course, this is my house. So, Uncle Minato brought me to Hidden Leaf Village? Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Yeah. Naruto nodded enthusiastically. What the hell? Sasuke covered his face with his hand. What's wrong, Sasuke? Naruto blinked in confusion. Nothing. Sasuke put his hand down, regaining his composure. Should I tell him this was all a misunderstanding? No, I can't. He casually glanced around the house and walked over to the sofa, sitting down. Is this your new house? It's much better than that dump you used to live in. This was always my dad and mom's house. Naruto quickly followed and sat across from him. Since Dad came back, the village gave us the house back. And my old place might have been small, but it wasn't a dump. Naruto glared at Sasuke, puffing out his cheeks. Still pretty pitiful. Sasuke said, relaxing into the sofa. Everything that was yours was taken away, and you didn't even know your father was the Hokage. You were miserable all the time. Ha ha ha. Naruto laughed awkwardly. It wasn't that bad. I never felt sorry for myself. Sasuke looked at Naruto's goofy smile and scoffed. Whatever. Though Naruto was often clueless, sometimes he could sense other people's emotions very sharply. Sasuke. Naruto hesitated, then asked. Do you hate the Hidden Leaf Village? Sasuke glanced at him and replied honestly. No, I just hate some of the people in it. That doesn't include me, right? Naruto looked at him hopefully, pointing to himself. Idiot. Sasuke turned to look out the window. It has nothing to do with you. Good. Naruto instantly brightened up. I'm so glad you're in Hidden Leaf Village, Sasuke. Kakashi-sensei and Sakura will be really happy too. Sasuke casually teased him. Don't you like Sakura? Well, yeah, that's true. Naruto blushed a little, then grumbled. But Sakura always liked you, that clueless girl. That has nothing to do with me. It's her choice. Sasuke replied calmly. Also, it's just because you're a useless dead last. Damn it. How can you say that? Naruto jumped to his feet, furious. What do you think of Sakura's feelings? I'm not wrong, though. Sasuke shrugged, unconcerned. You bastard. Naruto grabbed Sasuke by the collar, glaring at him angrily. Huh? What's going on? Minato suddenly appeared beside them, gently prying Naruto's hand off Sasuke's collar. Don't fight. You're friends, you should get along. Humphrey. Naruto turned his head away, still disgruntled. Dinner is ready. Minato smiled. Sasuke, you're welcome to join us. Thank you, Uncle Minato. Sasuke replied politely, standing up to adjust his clothes. He then threw a taunting glance at Naruto. You. Naruto stomped his foot in frustration. Alright. Minato turned to Naruto with a kind smile. Time to eat, Naruto. Yes, Dad. Naruto obediently quieted down, suddenly alert. After finally finishing the meal, Naruto wasted no time in jumping back up as Minato went to wash the dishes. Sasuke. Naruto pointed at Sasuke, speaking seriously. I challenge you. Oh? Sasuke put down his teacup and smiled. You've got some nerve, dead last. Damn it. I'm not that dead last anymore. Naruto angrily waved his fist. Last time you saved me, but now I won't lose to you. Are you sure? Sasuke stood up, looking Naruto in the eye. I'll give you a chance to understand the difference between us. Ugh. You're still as arrogant as ever. Arrogant Sasuke. Naruto clenched his fists. You've always been a dumbass, Naruto. Sasuke shot back, placing his hand on the hilt of his sword. The two locked eyes, neither willing to back down, staring at each other without blinking. What are you two doing? Minato, who had finally taken off his apron, looked at the two boys and smiled helplessly. Ah, youth. This is what it means to be young. Dad. Naruto turned to Minato. I'm going to fight this arrogant Sasuke. Humphrey. Alright, I get it. Minato raised his hands in surrender. I'll be the referee. Minato placed his hands on their shoulders, activating the Flying Thunder God technique, and the three of them instantly appeared in the woods outside Hidden Leaf Village. Sasuke was still savoring the sensation of space travel when Naruto shouted. Hey! Let's start already. Sasuke, I'm going to beat you down hard. Huh, you think you can? Sasuke raised his chin slightly. Don't underestimate me. Sure, are you two ready? Minato asked. Ready. Sasuke replied. Wait. Naruto suddenly raised his hand. Now what? Sasuke frowned. Dad, call Kakashi-sensei and Sakura. This is a fight between Team 7. Naruto looked at Minato, who in turn looked at Sasuke for approval. Whatever, I don't care. Sasuke said indifferently. Alright, you two wait a bit. Minato disappeared and quickly returned with Kakashi, then vanished again to bring Sakura. Sasuke? Sasuke-kun. Kakashi looked at Sasuke in surprise, while Sakura was filled with joy. Sasuke responded with a nod and then turned to Naruto. Is that enough, dead last? Humphrey, it's enough. Naruto nodded. Then the match will begin shortly. Both sides, form the seal of confrontation. Minato raised his right hand. Sasuke and Naruto locked eyes as they formed the seal of confrontation. Minato immediately swung his hand down. Begin. The two figures rapidly closed the distance, their fists colliding with a shockwave, but neither budged an inch. Chapter 165, Sasuke and Naruto glared at each other intensely, and once again, they moved, engaging in a pure taijutsu battle. Naruto's taijutsu style had always been direct and forceful, with large, powerful movements. Sasuke, on the other hand, activated his three Tomoe Sharingan. His movements were agile, always searching for openings, and his speed was slightly superior. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of collisions kept ringing out. The fallen leaves on the ground were swept up by the gusts of wind, swirling around the two figures darting back and forth. Kakashi, watching the evenly matched battle between the two, couldn't help but comment. Naruto, that kid, has improved a lot. He's learned to make full use of his physical advantages. Logically, Sasuke's taijutsu should have been more refined, especially with the dynamic vision provided by his Sharingan, which should have given him the upper hand. However, the two remained evenly matched on the surface. Naruto, relying on his enhanced physique, repeatedly faced Sasuke's punches and kicks head-on without hesitation, intending to use a damage-for-damage strategy. This forced Sasuke to retreat and evade. Sasuke-kun, Naruto. Sakura watched the two boys crisscrossing figures with wide eyes, clenching her fists. She wondered, am I keeping up with their pace now? Boom. A dull thud echoed as Naruto blocked Sasuke's downward kick with an upward punch. Both of them froze in place, a wave of air violently sweeping away all the swirling leaves around them. Hey, not bad. Sasuke chuckled, applying force to his leg and performing a backflip to create some distance. I told you, I'm no longer the dead last. Naruto retracted his fist and grinned widely. In that case, let's continue. Sasuke bent his body slightly, his eyes sharpening as he gripped the sword at his waist with a reverse hold. Be careful from here on out. Bring it on. Naruto pulled a kunai from the pouch on his thigh, spun it around his finger, and held it in a reverse grip. You better watch out yourself. Sasuke smirked once more, pushing the sword guard with his left hand and unsheathing his sword with his right. A flash of white light crossed Naruto's vision. The sharp blade carried a biting coldness, causing the hairs on Naruto's skin to stand up. Clang. At the very last second, Naruto's eyes widened as he stepped back, tightly gripping his kunai to block the slash. Looks like your perception has improved a lot too. Their eyes met, and the three Tomoe in Sasuke's eyes began to spin. Not good. Naruto's consciousness dimmed. He immediately closed his eyes and stepped back. Hey! Sasuke pressed forward swiftly, his sword flashing with a quick thrust toward Naruto, who had his eyes shut. Naruto bent his knee slightly and leaped into the air, throwing the kunai in his hand downward. Sasuke casually deflected the kunai with a flick of his blade. However, Naruto had already opened his eyes, forming a hand seal. Multiple shadow clone jutsu. Poof, 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 poof. In an instant, countless identical shadow clones filled Sasuke's vision, surrounding him completely. Take this. All the shadow clones shouted in unison, moving simultaneously as Naruto blended into the crowd. This again. Sasuke straightened up, holding his sword in a reverse grip, and formed a hand seal. Chidori blade. The sound of crackling electricity filled the air, and blue arcs of lightning enveloped his white blade. Sasuke. Several of Naruto's shadow clones threw shuriken, while others, holding kunai, rushed forward. Naruto. Sasuke's lightning-imbued blade sliced through the air, knocking down all the incoming weapons. As the sword moved, arcs of lightning cut through the approaching shadow clones, dispelling them one after another. More. Naruto's shadow clones charged forward from all directions. Sasuke spun on his toes, and the lightning blade exploded in an arc, creating a perfect circle around him. Poof, poof, poof. White smoke rose as the shadow clones were once again wiped out. Damn it. The remaining clones rushed in, shouting defiantly. Is this all you've got, Naruto? Sasuke moved lightly, his lightning blade dancing through the air, constantly dispelling the endless barrage of shadow clones. Kakashi, did you teach Sasuke that swordsmanship? Minato asked calmly as he watched the glowing blade in Sasuke's hand, then shook his head. No, it doesn't seem like it. It wasn't me. Kakashi had already pushed up his forehead protector, revealing his Sharingan. It seems to be Lee's doing. Sasuke's swordsmanship foundation is very solid. Kaito knows swordsmanship? Minato asked in surprise. Kakashi shook his head. No, his swordsmanship is terrible. I meant that Kaito likely brought in a swordsmanship expert to give Sasuke some specialized training. I see. Minato nodded in understanding, then laughed. Good thing Kaito doesn't know swordsmanship. Otherwise, even I would feel inadequate. Kakashi didn't respond. I guess I've lost. He recalled the days when he, too, had been a brilliant young prodigy. But, alas, time has worn me down. Kakashi-sensei? Sakura looked at the suddenly melancholic Kakashi with confusion. Kakashi quickly regained his composure and said earnestly. Pay close attention to the fight, Sakura. Don't let those two surpass you. Yes. Sakura dragged out her response, rolling her eyes as she turned back to the battle. Sasuke. Naruto's shout pulled her attention back once more. One of Naruto's clones had leaped high into the air, thrusting a Rasengan towards Sasuke. Meanwhile, the shadow clones around Sasuke clung to him, giving it their all to hold him down. Sasuke glanced up, and in an instant, electricity surged across his entire body, expanding outward. Chidori. The crackling electricity cleared out the remaining clones. Sasuke shook his lightning-infused blade. Then, he gripped his sword with both hands, holding it horizontally at eye level, the tip aimed directly at the Rasengan-wielding Naruto. Thrust. The electrified blade shot forward like lightning. Sasuke dodged Naruto's Rasengan, plunging his sword into Naruto's chest. Rasengan. Naruto's voice, accompanied by the high-pitched hum of the spinning Rasengan, echoed behind Sasuke. At the same time, the Naruto he had just impaled vanished into smoke. Got him. Seeing the Rasengan about to slam into Sasuke's back, Naruto couldn't help but smile in excitement. Are you about to say you got me? Sasuke's voice suddenly came from right beside him, the crackling blade hovering near his neck. What? Naruto turned his head in shock. Sasuke was standing right behind him, his sword at Naruto's throat. He turned back to look ahead and saw another Sasuke calmly turning around. You lost, dead last. Damn it. Naruto shouted angrily at Sasuke's smug smile. I haven't lost yet. Whoosh. 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 Red chakra chains suddenly shot out from another direction, hurtling towards Sasuke. Found you, the real one. Sasuke's grin widened. You're still so easy to provoke. Chapter 166, Naruto's eyes widened, and without any hesitation, he manipulated the chakra chains to strangle Sasuke. Humphrey. The two Sasukes chuckled simultaneously. One stepped forward to meet the chakra chains, while the other swiftly eliminated the nearby shadow clone with a sword and retreated. Whoosh! 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 The chakra chains pierced through the approaching Sasuke and continued at high speed toward the real Sasuke. At the same time, Naruto's remaining shadow clones moved in, accelerating to surround him. This must be the adamantine sealing chains, Sasuke said, watching the red chakra chains in the air. It'd be troublesome to get caught. That's right. Naruto shouted proudly. In an instant, I can seal your movements. You've lost, Sasuke. Too bad. Sasuke quickly dodged the chakra chains. I've seen stronger chains than this. What? Seeing the chains miss repeatedly, Naruto hurriedly directed his shadow clones to block Sasuke. Catch him now. Yeah. The shadow clones approached again, closing in on Sasuke without leaving any gaps. Sasuke's footsteps quickened, and for a moment, several after images appeared simultaneously. Then, seizing the opportunity, he immediately formed hand signs. Bang! In the original spot, only a piece of wood wrapped in chakra chains was left. Sasuke had vanished. Damn. It's the substitution jutsu. Naruto shouted in frustration and reluctantly retracted the chakra chains. However, just as he did so, Sasuke's voice suddenly rang out again. Fire style, majestic flame annihilation. A blazing sea of flames erupted, engulfing both Naruto and his shadow clones. Naruto. Sakura, watching from a distance, screamed in panic and quickly turned to the two adults. Fourth Hokage, Kakashi-sensei. Don't worry. Minato turned to her with a reassuring smile. Naruto will be fine. As he spoke, a beastly roar echoed, and an extraordinarily powerful chakra suddenly erupted from the sea of flames. Sasuke jumped from behind a tree to a branch in front and looked down. The powerful chakra had already materialized, and the shock wave from its eruption was dispersing the surrounding intense flames. Naruto was on all fours, his body wrapped in a red-tailed beast cloak, with two long tails waving behind him. Sasuke. Naruto raised his head, his beastly red eyes glaring at him, and sharp fangs emerged from his mouth. Hey! Are you still conscious? Sasuke frowned and glanced at Minato, the referee standing in the distance. Of course. What are you looking at? However, Naruto had already leapt into the air, extending his right hand, which had sharp claws. The red chakra transformed into a massive beast claw that quickly stretched towards Sasuke. Sasuke dodged and jumped to another tree, while the tree behind him was shredded by Naruto's chakra beast claw. TCH. Sasuke turned to see Naruto rapidly bouncing between tree trunks, using all four limbs to close the distance with incredible speed. Now this is more like it. Sasuke smiled as purple markings began to appear on his face, and his aura surged. What's that? Minato looked up at Sasuke in surprise. Sage Art Cursed Seal? So, even the living can use it? It's probably Orochimaru's doing again. Kakashi remarked nonchalantly. Damn, I wish I had something like that. Kakashi couldn't help but feel a tinge of envy. Luckily, Naruto has awakened the adamantine sealing chains. Minato smiled in relief again. He's adapting well to the Nine Tails chakra. With the cursed seal active, Sasuke's power increased dramatically. In an instant, he appeared above Naruto and slammed his right leg down at him. Naruto looked up, his gaze intense, and crossed his arms to block the kick. However, he underestimated Sasuke's strength and was sent crashing down to the ground like a cannonball. While falling, Naruto extended his chakra beast claw again, which stretched out rapidly. After Sasuke dodged, the claw grabbed onto a tree trunk, pulling Naruto back up before he hit the ground. Now, Sasuke stood on top of the tree trunk horizontally, while Naruto clung to the middle of the trunk with all four limbs. Their eyes met once again. Sasuke. Naruto bared his fangs and roared, the red chakra around him bubbling like boiling water as a third tail emerged behind him. Naruto. You've really gotten stronger. Sasuke smiled excitedly, the tomoe in his eyes spinning faster and becoming blurred. But unfortunately, it's impossible for you to surpass me. What did you say, you arrogant Sasuke? Naruto furiously punched the tree trunk, causing wood splinters to fly everywhere. Because Sasuke activated his Mangekyo Sharingan, and his strange spiritual power spread instantly. I now possess these even more powerful eyes. So what? Naruto began to gather energy. We already knew that last time. No, you don't understand. Sasuke smiled mysteriously. Do you remember why, After you went berserk last time, Kakashi stepped in between us? Naruto thought about it for a moment and vaguely recalled it happening when they were chasing after Deidara. Why? He asked directly. Because of these eyes. Sasuke touched his lower eyelid, his devilish eyes radiating cold power. These eyes can easily control tailed beasts. No way. Naruto shouted in shock. It's true. Sasuke said confidently. So right now, you have no chance of winning, Naruto. I don't believe you. Naruto growled, his sharp claws digging deep into the rough bark of the tree. I'll beat you. Then let me show you. Sasuke smirked as the intricate patterns in his eyes began to spin slowly. What? Naruto's vision went dark, and when he opened his eyes again, he found himself standing beside Sasuke in front of the Nine-Tails sealed gate. Naruto quickly jumped back in shock, pointing at Sasuke with a trembling finger. What's going on? This is my sealed space. How did you get in here? Humphrey. Sasuke turned his head, and his sinister eyes sent a wave of immense pressure toward Naruto. Didn't I say? I'll let you experience it, so you'll know that I was telling the truth. Uchiha brat. With a roar of rage, the massive head of the Nine-Tails emerged from the darkness behind the gate. Damn Uchiha. The Nine-Tails' beastly red eyes glared at Sasuke with hatred, its sharp fangs bared, and saliva dripping from its mouth. So, this is the Nine-Tails. Sasuke raised his head and fearlessly stared back at it. What the heck is going on? Naruto jumped in front of Sasuke, waving his arms in frustration. Tell me what's happening. Naruto, you useless brat. The Nine-Tails roared angrily. You brought an Uchiha with the Mangekyo Sharingan to stand before me. Now you understand, Naruto. Sasuke said calmly. Even the Nine-Tails fears these eyes. Naruto stared blankly at Sasuke's eyes, unable to find the words to respond. Sasuke turned his gaze to the Nine-Tails again. Don't worry, I consider this guy somewhat of a friend. I won't do anything to you. With that, Sasuke's figure gradually faded into the darkness. Chapter 167. When Naruto opened his eyes again, he found himself lying on the ground, surrounded by a crowd. Well then, Sasuke will be under your and Kakashi's supervision while he's in the village, Minato. That was Granny Tsunada's voice. Don't worry, Lady Tsunada. That was his father's voice. Naruto turned his head and saw Minato and Kakashi talking with Tsunada. Then he looked to the other side, where Sasuke was leaning against a big tree with a bored expression, while Sakura stood by, anxiously watching him. Around them, the trees and ground were filled with masked Anbu members. Sasuke. Sakura. Naruto jumped up and ran toward them. What's going on, I say? Naruto. You're awake. Sakura turned her head, surprised and happy. Sakura, what's happening? Naruto looked around, confused. Humphrey, it's nothing. Sasuke chuckled lightly. They're just worried that I might be a threat to Hidden Leaf Village. No way. Naruto walked up to Sasuke and looked at him seriously. You wouldn't do that. I believe in you, Sasuke. I believe in you too, Sasuke-kun. Sakura quickly chimed in. Sasuke looked at their serious expressions, then shifted his gaze away, speaking indifferently. It's fine. It's only natural that some people would doubt me. You really can't come back to Hidden Leaf Village. Sakura's voice choked a bit. Sasuke-kun. For the first time, Sasuke made prolonged eye contact with Sakura, his black eyes filled with sincerity. I'm sorry, Sakura. Sakura quickly lowered her head, biting her lip, trying to hold back tears. It's okay, Sasuke-kun. She whispered. I was too abrupt. Sakura. Naruto grew anxious. Are you crying? Hey, Sasuke, say something. Naruto. I'm fine. Sakura raised her tear-stained eyes, forcing a strained smile. Sasuke-kun, I was just being too simple-minded. I've put you in a difficult position. It's alright. Even though Sasuke is no longer a ninja of Hidden Leaf Village, we can still be friends, like me and Kara. Right, Sasuke? Naruto clumsily tried to comfort them. Sasuke looked at their expectant eyes, opened his mouth, and finally muttered. Yeah. Great. Sakura. Naruto cheered immediately. A genuine smile appeared on Sakura's face. What are you all talking about? Minato's voice rang out, and Naruto quickly turned to wave at him. Dad, Kakashi-sensei, where's Granny Tsunada? Lady Tsunada has already left. Kakashi made a hand signal as he walked, and with a swooshing sound, all the surrounding Anbu disappeared. Sasuke, for now, you'll be staying at Minato-sensei's house. Thank you for the hospitality, Uncle Minato. Sasuke stood up and gave a proper bow to Minato. No need to be so formal. Minato smiled. That sparring match earlier was impressive, Sasuke. You've improved a lot. Kakashi added. Oh, the match. Naruto suddenly shouted exaggeratedly, turning to point at Sasuke. The match isn't over yet. Let's go again, Sasuke. Humphrey, it's already over, loser. Sasuke crossed his arms and smirked. No way, we haven't decided the winner yet. Naruto grew even more agitated. You lost, Naruto. Minato said, placing a hand on Naruto's head. After Sasuke activated his Mangekyo Sharingan, it was over for you. No way. Naruto suddenly remembered. Keep working hard. Minato patted his head lightly. I will. Naruto immediately regained his fighting spirit, staring intensely at Sasuke. Next time, I'll definitely beat you, Sasuke. Yeah, I'll be waiting. Sasuke replied seriously. I won't let you catch up to me. After that, they all began heading back toward the village. After entering Hidden Leaf Village's gates, Kakashi and Sakura left first, and then Sasuke suddenly stopped walking. Uncle Minato. Minato looked at him kindly. What is it, Sasuke? Sasuke turned to look in the direction of the village outskirts. I want to visit the Uchiha cemetery. Of course. Minato agreed immediately. I'll go with you. Sasuke looked at Minato's sincere expression and solemnly said. Thank you. Alright then. Minato said. I'll accompany Sasuke to the Uchiha grounds. Naruto, head home on your own. I know, Dad. Surprisingly, Naruto didn't say much and waved as he jumped onto a nearby rooftop, disappearing in an instant. Let's go, Sasuke. Yeah. Minato called out, and the two of them began walking toward the Naka River. Sasuke, you've been out before, right? When Naruto and the others went to rescue Gaara. Minato said. Why did you suddenly go back to the Northern Sea? Sasuke glanced at him in surprise. Surprised? Minato smiled. Since you always leave the ninja world from the north shore of the Land of Frost, people have guessed that your base must be hidden in the Northern Sea. It seems when Uncle summoned you to help on that island, you already figured out our general location. Sasuke responded. That's right. Minato nodded openly. Unfortunately, even with that, your base wasn't near that island, and I couldn't find it, could I? Sasuke silently nodded. Something must have happened that caused you to return there without finding Itachi. Minato speculated. Sasuke raised his eyes to look at him but remained silent. No need to be nervous, Sasuke. Minato laughed heartily. I'm just curious. After all, I'm very interested in Uncle's grand mission. Saving the world? Sasuke couldn't help but blurt out. That's right. Minato gave him a thumbs up. That's been my dream since I was young. Isn't it exciting? Where did this old man's childish enthusiasm come from? Sasuke gave him a strange look. As expected of Naruto's father, he was just as peculiar. You can ask Uncle yourself. Sasuke said, taking out a small paper figure. This is a communication talisman Uncle made. Just input a bit of natural energy, and you can talk to him directly. Is that so? Thank you, Sasuke. Minato took the talisman and carefully put it away. At that moment, a familiar voice called out from the head. Sasuke-kun? Is that you, Sasuke-kun? Sasuke turned to see Team 10 standing on the other side of the street, with Ino waving at him. On the other side. Hey, the fourth Hokage and Sasuke Uchiha. Those are some troublesome people. Shikamaru yawned and spoke lazily. Why bother with them, Ino? I'm just saying hello, Shikamaru. Ino glared at him. Hello. Minato and Sasuke had already walked up to them. Fourth Hokage. The three greeted respectfully, and Minato smiled and nodded. Yo, why are you back, Sasuke? Shikamaru casually greeted Sasuke. There are some things I need to deal with. Sasuke didn't want to elaborate. Then we won't bother you. Shikamaru nodded and started walking forward. See you, Sasuke. Come find me if you're free, Sasuke-kun. Choji and Ino passed by Sasuke. Shikamaru. Sasuke suddenly called out. Chapter 168. Shikamaru stopped and turned to look at Sasuke. Choji too, about earlier, I'm sorry, and thank you. Sasuke said solemnly. No need to be so formal. After all, we were in the same class for a few years. Shikamaru turned to face Sasuke. Besides, we're Hidden Leaf Village as shinobi, it was just a mission. Yeah. Choji, his mouth full of chips, nodded repeatedly. I understand. Well then, goodbye. Sasuke nodded and turned to continue walking towards the Naka River. Minato gave them a gentle smile before also turning to leave. Goodbye. Goodbye, Fourth Lord, goodbye Sasuke-kun. Sasuke seems a bit different, Shikamaru. Choji squinted as he watched Sasuke's back. Yeah, maybe it's a good thing. Shikamaru put his hands in his pockets. After all, he's much more polite now, isn't he? True. Choji laughed heartily. Hey, what are you guys talking about? Didn't Sasuke-kun just become even cooler? Ino stopped waving her right hand and looked at Shikamaru and Choji with annoyance. Ugh, such a hassle. Let's head back. Shikamaru quickly turned around. Or else, I'll miss dinner and get lectured by my mom again. Yeah, I wonder what delicious food my mom made today. Choji's face was full of anticipation. Hey. You too. Ino flipped her long ponytail and followed them with a displeased expression. In the Uchiha clan's residential area, the setting sun slanted through, casting a dark, decaying atmosphere over the run-down houses. Sasuke walked expressionlessly down the stone path, his shadow stretched long behind him. The red sunset cast a warm hue on his side profile, but it couldn't dispel the coldness on his face. Minato remained silent, quietly following behind him, his footsteps barely audible. Suddenly, Sasuke stopped, staring down at the stone slabs dyed red by the setting sun. Uncle Tezuka and Aunt Unji fell here. He suddenly said in a low voice. What's the matter, Sasuke? Minato walked up beside him. Sasuke lifted his head to look at the ruined shop beside them. This was Uncle Tezuka and Aunt's pancake shop. Their pancakes were pretty good. Before Minato could ask further, Sasuke continued walking forward. Not long after, the two reached the entrance of a courtyard located in the center. This was Sasuke's old home. Do you want to go inside, Sasuke? Minato asked, looking at the tightly shut gate. Creak. Sasuke reached out and pushed the gate open. The view from outside revealed a small, overgrown courtyard. The sliding door of the main house had collapsed, and the wooden floor of the corridor was warped. Sasuke's vision blurred slightly, as if he could see scenes from the past in this courtyard. Mikoto was collecting the laundry in the yard. A young Sasuke and Itachi sat at the edge of the corridor chatting intimately, and inside the house, Fugaku sat at the low table, reviewing documents. Sasuke blinked, and the vision before him turned back into the dilapidated scene. At that moment, Sasuke couldn't help but think of the Uchiha residence on Mount Hama. It had a similar structure but was much larger than this courtyard, with a vast training ground in the backyard. Kaido, Yuri, Chiri, Izuna, and Madara. Various figures with different expressions and postures flashed through his mind. Sasuke? Minato's voice suddenly snapped him out of it, and Sasuke shook his head to clear his thoughts. No need to go in. This house, filled with painful memories, was no longer his home. Let's go to the cemetery. Sasuke decisively turned around. The two quickened their pace, passing through the residential area and entering the back mountain. This is it. Sasuke stopped, gazing at the transparent barrier surrounding the cemetery with layers of gravestones. Sasuke, can you open this barrier? Minato stood behind him. No. Sasuke shook his head, pulling out another paper doll from his ninja pouch. Purple markings appeared on his face as he infused the paper doll with natural energy before throwing it out. But, I can make someone who can open it appear. The paper doll quickly grew larger, transforming into the figure of Kaido. Yo, Minato. Kaido smiled and greeted him. Sasuke, how's Hidden Leaf Village treating you? Sasuke glared at him silently. Alright. Kaido looked around before getting serious. I'll handle it. He stood in front of the barrier, forming seals with his hands, then reached out to touch the barrier. Open. A gap opened in the barrier that surrounded the entire cemetery, gradually expanding into a passageway. Go ahead, Sasuke. Kaido instructed. I know. Please wait here, Uncle Minato. Sasuke walked straight through the passage. Afterward, Kaido released his hands, and the barrier slowly restored itself. Kaido, what is this? Minato finally spoke up. This is a paper clone, similar to a shadow clone. Kaido explained. I see. Sasuke gave me this earlier. Minato took out another paper doll. Ah, that's a communication paper doll. Sasuke must have explained it to you. Kaido said. Do you need to contact me for something? Well. Minato seemed a bit embarrassed. I wanted to ask you something. Kaido looked surprised but responded. Go ahead. Minato scratched his cheek with a smile. I want to be more involved in your actions. Kaido was puzzled. You know, the mission to save the world. Minato lightly reminded him. Oh. I get it now. Kaido looked at Minato with some suspicion, noticing only pure excitement in his eyes. Come to think of it, is this really Minato's personality? You agreed? Minato immediately smiled. Of course. Kaido didn't hesitate. That was part of the deal we made. I just haven't asked you for much help since you still need to protect Naruto. It's fine. I believe Naruto will grow up quickly. Plus, I think participating in your mission and protecting Naruto won't conflict with each other. Minato said. After all, The enemy is Akatsuki, right? Kaito raised an eyebrow. Akatsuki has been active lately. They've already captured several tailed beasts. Soon, they'll likely prepare to attack Naruto. I understand. Minato replied. If they can't find an opportunity, their only option will be to come directly for him. I'll need to be cautious. Exactly. Kaito nodded. If you don't want Hidden Leaf Village to be destroyed, stay alert. I will. Thank you, Kaito. Minato smiled gratefully. Chapter 169. Inside the Uchiha cemetery barrier, Sasuke stood still, silently gazing at the rows of neatly arranged tombstones in front of him. His eyes swept over each name, some familiar and others unfamiliar, and corresponding faces and voices flickered in his mind. The sadness and hatred he thought had subsided surged again, and his heart began to torment him once more. That bastard Itachi. Sasuke gritted his teeth, and his vision gradually blurred. I'm sorry, I will definitely give you all an explanation. He bent down deeply and remained bowed for a long time. Outside the barrier, Minato watched Sasuke's lonely figure with concern. Is Sasuke going to be okay? This is something he must carry. Kaito, who was also watching Sasuke, replied with a serious tone. Minato glanced at Kaito and sighed. Kaito, you're really strict. Isn't what he's carrying too heavy? Kaito smiled. Don't worry. That's how boys grow into men. You're right. Minato paused for a moment and then smiled as well. Maybe it's because I'm a father now. Looking at someone the same age as Naruto, I can't help but feel a little sorry for them. This world is inherently cruel, especially for shinobi. Kaito said. There's no time for boys to grow up slowly. At that moment, Sasuke turned around to leave, and Kaito opened the barrier pathway again to let him out. Well, let's leave it at that. Kaito's figure gradually faded and then completely retracted into the paper figure. Minato, Sasuke, farewell. Then, the paper figure ignited without wind and turned to ashes, drifting away in the breeze. Let's head back to. Minato placed his hand on Sasuke's shoulder, and in an instant, the two returned to the Namikaze residence. Dad, Sasuke, you're back. The two figures appeared in the living room, and Naruto, who had already bathed and changed clothes, rushed down from the second floor. Yeah, I'll start making dinner. Minato headed to the kitchen and put on an apron. Naruto, take Sasuke to the guest room for a bath first. No problem. Naruto ran back up the stairs and waved at Sasuke. Follow me, Sasuke. Sasuke, still feeling a bit down, silently followed Naruto to the second floor. Here it is, come and see. Naruto excitedly pushed open the door to the guest room and turned on the light. Even though no one usually stays here, Dad has always kept it well cleaned and organized. Thank you. Sasuke expressed his gratitude, walked into the guest room, and took off the sword and ninja pouch from his waist, placing them on the small desk by the bed. No need to be so formal. Naruto leaned against the door, scratching his cheek awkwardly. By the way, this is the first time I've invited a friend to stay over. Sasuke walked to the doorway and asked. Are you happy about that? A little bit. Naruto smiled instinctively. Honestly, ever since Dad came back, it's felt like a dream. Every day has been so happy. He then looked at Sasuke seriously. I think I can finally understand you, Sasuke. Really? Sasuke leaned against the other side of the door, crossing his arms, surprised as he observed Naruto. Yeah. I think I finally understand what you were saying back then. Naruto said solemnly. Now, I know what it feels like to have a family. He grabbed the fabric over his heart and said in a low voice. Just thinking about the possibility of losing them again makes my heart ache unbearably. Hey, you've started to get it, Naruto. Sasuke lowered his head, and his bangs cast a heavy shadow over his face. You're finally less annoying. I'm sorry, Sasuke. Back then, I couldn't distinguish between friends and family, and I said a lot of irritating things. Naruto said sincerely. And now that I understand, I'm no longer obsessed with bringing you back to the village. So, should I thank you for that? Sasuke lifted his head and said sarcastically. No need to thank me. Naruto laughed sheepishly and waved his hand. I just wanted to tell you how I feel. Sasuke's forehead veins bulged in annoyance, and he pushed Naruto angrily. I wasn't really thanking you. Idiot, just tell me where the bathroom is already. Oh. I got it. Naruto stumbled a bit and led Sasuke to the bathroom, mumbling as he walked. I don't know why he suddenly got mad. Sasuke's veins bulged again as he bumped Naruto aside and went into the bathroom, slamming the door behind him with a bang. Seriously, I don't get it. Naruto scratched his head, confused, as he headed back downstairs. After dinner, Sasuke and Naruto volunteered to handle cleaning up and washing the dishes. Naruto. Sasuke suddenly spoke up. Tomorrow, help me with something. No problem. Leave it to me. Naruto gave a thumbs up, flicking the soapy water into the air. Sasuke dodged the foam, placing the dishes Naruto had washed under the faucet to rinse. I ran into Shikamaru and the others today. Huh? What about those 3 guys? Naruto turned around, confused. You mentioned it before, right? Some comrades were seriously injured because of me back then. Sasuke's tone was a bit awkward. Tomorrow, help me gather the guys from those 3 squads for a meal. I'll treat them. Oh. I get it now. Naruto's hand suddenly moved more forcefully, splashing water and bubbles again. You want to thank them personally. Be careful, idiot. Sasuke stepped back to avoid the water and bubbles. Haha, don't mind me. I'll help you invite them tomorrow. Here, catch this. Naruto handed a foam-covered plate to Sasuke. Sasuke took the plate and rinsed it under the faucet, asking. Are you sure they're all in the village? Naruto shook his head. No idea. If they're on a mission, then we can't do anything about it. If they aren't, then forget it. Sasuke said. I'll be leaving Hidden Leaf Village soon anyway. Why? Naruto stopped what he was doing and turned to look at Sasuke. Sasuke said quietly. It's not convenient for me to stay in Hidden Leaf Village for too long. Besides, my goal is to find Itachi and settle things with him. Naruto paused for a moment, then asked directly. Itachi? That's one scary guy. Can you handle it on your own? Why isn't Uncle Kaido going with you? My uncle has his own matters to attend to. Besides, I'm really strong now, so I can handle it on my own. Sasuke said confidently. Cocky bastard. Naruto pouted, grumbling in frustration, then shouted. Let me help you with it. No. This is an Uchiha matter. Sasuke refused firmly. And besides, you're their target. Why would you willingly walk into a trap, you idiot? You're the idiot. I'm not afraid of those guys. Humphrey, anyway, neither the Hokage nor Uncle Minato will let you go, so give up. Damn it. Knowing those bastards are after me, you think I'm just going to hide in the village forever? You're too weak for now, but if you master the Flying Thunder God technique, you might have a chance. Forget it. I already tried learning from Dad. That Flying Thunder God technique is terrifying. Chapter 170. The next day, after having breakfast, Naruto cheerfully headed out. 2 hours later, he returned home. Sasuke was sitting on the floor, maintaining his katana. Hearing footsteps, he looked up at the panting Naruto. Why did it take so long? He continued polishing the oil on his blade with a cloth in hand. Naruto waved his hand dismissively and quickly ran to the kitchen, opened the fridge, grabbed a drink, and gulped it down. After letting out a loud exhale, he finally spoke. I went all around Hidden Leaf Village. Luckily, no one had a mission today. Did you invite everyone? Sasuke smiled slightly. Thanks. No problem. Naruto grinned and sat cross-legged in front of Sasuke, looking at the sword in his hand. Sasuke, you didn't used to wield a sword, right? Your fighting style has changed a lot from before. Sasuke thought about why he learned swordsmanship, and his expression darkened a bit. It's all that guy's fault. He had boasted so much, but in the end, couldn't teach me much. My unreliable uncle. Of course, there was no need to tell Naruto about that. He turned the sword left and right, inspecting the gleaming blade. At the same time, he spoke nonchalantly. I'm not one to stay in one place. As long as it strengthens me, I'll learn it. Is that so? Naruto squinted his eyes, raising a hand to touch his chin. Should I learn it too? It does look cool. Forget it. It doesn't suit you. Sasuke glanced at him briefly. Why not? If you can learn it, then of course I can too. Naruto protested, unwilling to give up. Your fighting style is different. Don't push yourself. Sasuke skillfully twirled the sword in his hand before sheathing it with a sharp sheen. But you use a sword, and I use kunai. Doesn't that mean I'm at a disadvantage? Naruto still wasn't convinced. You just want a weapon, right? It doesn't have to be a sword. Think about what suits you best. Sasuke began gathering his maintenance tools and neatly placed them into a small wooden box. Naruto's eyes lit up. Oh. What should I choose then? How about a meteor hammer? Sasuke, having packed the small box into his ninja pouch, stood up. I don't know much about other weapons. You should ask Uncle Minato. Oh. Naruto scratched his head as he also stood up. Around noon, Sasuke and Naruto arrived early at the restaurant for the gathering, Hidden Leaf Village's well-known BBQ place. Yakiniku. After selecting a private room, they placed their order and sat down to wait. Soon, when all the meat had been served, the others arrived one after another. Thanks to Naruto enthusiastically greeting everyone, Sasuke only needed to stand up occasionally and say a few words. Even so, Sasuke's attitude shocked their old classmates. Not to mention, Sasuke inviting them to a dinner in the first place was already an oddity. Although everyone wanted to voice their thoughts, they held back their unusual feelings and tried their best to engage in small talk. However, despite everyone's efforts, there was still a lingering sense of awkwardness in the room. Of course, Naruto, Lee, and Kiba didn't notice a thing. At this moment, the Inoshikacho trio from Team 10 finally arrived, fashionably late. "Yo, we're late," Shikamaru greeted. Choji's eyes sparkled at the sight of the piles of meat stacked high on the table, and he happily squinted his eyes. "Thanks, Sasuke, for treating us to such delicious meat." His goodwill towards Sasuke was now at maximum level. "Didn't expect you to be so generous, Sasuke." Shikamaru didn't bother stopping Choji from diving into the barbecue, nor did he interfere with Ino and Sakura's bickering, choosing instead to reluctantly engage in socializing. This is such a drag, Shikamaru thought. He hadn't wanted to attend this troublesome gathering, but Choji sold him out the moment he heard barbecue. Since he had promised Naruto, he had no choice but to make an appearance. Sasuke stood up and nodded. "Take a seat." Everyone sat down and began grilling their meat. Perhaps it was the warmth of the fire or the delicious taste of the barbecue, but as time passed, the atmosphere gradually became more relaxed. "Sasuke." Naruto suddenly spoke up loudly. "You have something you want to say to everyone, right?" As he spoke, he kept winking at Sasuke. "This idiot." Shikamaru was at a loss for words, watching Naruto. Of course, he knew the significance of Sasuke inviting them to dinner. Those who understood, understood. But wasn't this something that was best left unsaid, a silent understanding? Making Sasuke say it out loud would only make things awkward. Sasuke was also at a bit of a loss, but with Naruto pushing him, he had no choice. "The reason I invited everyone here today is because of what happened 3 years ago." Sasuke began awkwardly. "I heard several of you were seriously injured back then. I want to apologize to you all and say thank you." No sooner had Sasuke finished speaking than Lee immediately burst into tears and gave him a thumbs up. "It's okay, Sasuke. Youth allows for mistakes. So that's why you invited us? You've become much more agreeable compared to your arrogant self from before." Kiba eyed Sasuke up and down before tossing a piece of grilled meat into the air. "Isn't that right, Akamaru?" "Woof." The now full-grown Akamaru jumped up and caught the meat in his mouth. Shikamaru glanced at Naruto, who looked deeply moved, and felt suffocated. Here it is. The idiot who doesn't understand unspoken intentions. What I consider common sense is something beyond the comprehension of some fools. And my clever brain just doesn't get how an idiot's mind works. You don't need to apologize or thank me. Shino's eerie voice sounded. "If you're asking why, it's because I wasn't part of that mission." There it is. The legendary Killjoy King. Shikamaru's eyes widened in shock, feeling even more suffocated. "Did Sasuke not know you didn't participate? What exactly are you trying to say by bringing this up? Couldn't you just quietly enjoy the benefits of being a teammate?" "Sorry, Sasuke-kun. I wasn't part of that mission either." Hinata mustered up the courage to say. She glanced at Naruto, then blushed and lowered her head, seemingly too shy to even eat her barbecue. Sakura doodled absent-mindedly in the air. "I wasn't part of the mission either. So what's the big deal?" Ino fearlessly declared. "Since it's Sasuke-kun's treat, let's just consider it a class reunion." "Well done, Ino." Shikamaru cheered internally. "That's the way. Let's end this awkward topic and focus on eating." "Hinata." Sasuke suddenly looked at Hinata. "Is it just me, or do you seem really afraid of this idiot?" PFFT. Cough cough cough. Cough 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 cough. There it is. The idiot with zero emotional intelligence. Shikamaru's eyes became lifeless as he glanced sympathetically at Hinata. Chapter 171, Sasuke's question caused some people to choke directly. After the coughing subsided, the room fell into an eerie silence. "That's impossible." It was Naruto, still clueless, who broke the silence. "How could Hinata be afraid of me?" He had a look of confidence, patting his chest proudly. "During the Chunin exams, Hinata even gave me medicine." "Right, Hinata?" "Hinata." Hinata's face was already bright red, steam almost rising from her head, as if she was about to faint. Sitting next to her, Tenten quickly pulled Hinata into a hug, her expression awkward as she explained to Sasuke. "That's not it. Hinata is just overly shy." "Oh." Sasuke didn't really understand. Why were they all reacting so strangely? Hinata-sama would never be afraid of this guy. Neji, who had been silent, glared at Sasuke, his tone stiff. "I was just asking casually. After all, Every time Hinata sees Naruto, she acts so nervous. Sasuke didn't understand why Neji was getting upset. Unbelievable. Shikamaru was secretly amazed. As expected of the genius Uchiha who already obtained his Sharingan, he had the imagination to confuse shyness with fear. Sakura's face was tinged with a faint blush, and a small smile crept up her lips. Really? Who would have thought Sasuke-kun had such an adorable little flaw? Suddenly, Shikamaru felt a strong sense of responsibility. I have to step up. This bizarre reunion. I'll be the one to set things straight. Shikamaru, what's with you? Choji, swallowing a mouthful of food, looked up at Shikamaru, surprised. Why was Shikamaru suddenly so motivated? I'm not suddenly motivated. I just don't want to deal with more trouble. Shikamaru conveyed this with his eyes. Then, using as normal a tone as possible, he asked Sasuke. Sasuke, what are your plans now? Yes, Sasuke-kun, are you going back to Hidden Leaf Village? Ino followed up in a sweet voice, earning an approving glance from Shikamaru. At that moment, everyone else also looked up at Sasuke. No. Sasuke replied directly. I am no longer considered a Hidden Leaf Village ninja. My stay here is only under the supervision of the 4th Hokage and Kakashi. Is that so? I guess. Once again, the room fell into silence. Now it's even more awkward. How should I respond? Shikamaru's expression turned deadpan again as his rare burst of enthusiasm vanished. Fortunately, there was a certain idiot to break the silence. Ha 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 ha. Naruto laughed loudly, slapping Sasuke on the shoulder. Even though you say that, Sasuke is no longer an enemy, so we can still be friends. Sasuke nodded in agreement. Shikamaru let out a sigh of relief. If Naruto says so, then I guess there's no issue. Shino spoke up again. After all, you probably know more than us thanks to the 4th Hokage. The feud between Uchiha and Hidden Leaf Village was resolved by my uncle a long time ago. Sasuke said openly. My current target is Itachi Uchiha. Itachi Uchiha. Kiba appeared to be trying to remember. I feel like I've heard that name before. Itachi Uchiha, a Hidden Leaf Village S-rank missing ninja. It's said that he killed everyone in the Uchiha clan except for Sasuke. Neji suddenly explained. And he's also Sasuke's older brother. Sasuke glanced at him indifferently, without offering any further explanation. S-rank missing ninja. Lee immediately became fired up. That sounds incredible. Sasuke. Can you really face such a powerful enemy already? Is that the point? Shikamaru couldn't help but interject. Alone? S-rank criminals are extremely dangerous. Be careful. I know. Sasuke nodded seriously. But this is something I have to do. Humphrey. Sasuke actually refused my help. Naruto grumbled unhappily. Revenge isn't something outsiders can help with. Neji suddenly commented. Right. Do you want revenge too? Sasuke looked at him. Me? Neji lowered his head, his tone distant. Who would I even get revenge on? Neji-san. Hinata came to her senses, looking at Neji, wanting to say something but holding back. Isn't your revenge against the Hidden Cloud Village? Sasuke looked at Neji, puzzled. How do you know so much? Neji stared back at Sasuke. It's not surprising, right? My uncle investigated it through root back then. Don't you know who your enemy is? I do, of course. Neji said bitterly. But what's the use of knowing? Can I start a war between Hidden Leaf Village and the Hidden Cloud? True. Sasuke nodded in understanding. With your current position, there's not much you can do. Ha. A bird trapped in a cage can only live according to its master's will. Neji smirked bitterly. Hey. What are you two talking about? These are forbidden topics. Read the room, please. Shikamaru was screaming internally, already considering running away. This time, except for Choji, who was still focused on eating, everyone else shrank back, trying to become less noticeable. Sasuke. Neji. What are you guys talking about? Naruto, clueless, kept looking between the two, completely confused. Sasuke and Neji exchanged a glance and shook their heads. What do you mean? Can't you explain it more clearly? Naruto scratched his head furiously in frustration. This is Neji's private matter. I can't tell you. Sasuke refused. But you two have already said it all. Everyone else except for the clueless Naruto understood what was going on. Ha ha ha. Ino suddenly let out an awkward laugh. Damn it, what kind of bizarre class reunion is this? I can't hold on anymore. Ino? What are you laughing at? Sakura asked, playing along. Oh, nothing, I just remembered a joke. Ino quickly responded. Really? Sakura's mouth twitched. Oh no. What was I even saying just now? Ino suddenly felt utterly defeated. You've failed too, Ino. Shikamaru gave Ino a sympathetic look. I don't care anymore. Ino glared at Shikamaru fiercely. Anyone else? Can someone say something, please? Shikamaru looked around, trying to meet someone's eyes. Sasuke. Choji, who had been engrossed in eating, raised his hand. Can I order more meat? Sasuke looked at the empty plates on the table and nodded. Thank you. Choji gratefully beamed at him, then began calling for the waiter. As expected of you, Choji. Shikamaru thought Choji was the cutest person today. The waiter brought out more plates of meat. Everyone, hurry up and eat. Shikamaru quickly reminded them. Or Choji will finish it all by himself. Oh. Everyone quickly and enthusiastically began grabbing the grilled meat. Then, Tenten took the initiative to bring up topics about their usual missions and training, and everyone joined in. Of course, nothing confidential was mentioned. Finally, the atmosphere returned to normal. Shikamaru felt exhausted. Chapter 172, Happy moments are always short-lived, and after the gathering, Sasuke was preparing to leave Hidden Leaf Village. Rejecting Naruto and Sakura's efforts to keep him, Sasuke made his way to the village gates, accompanied by the farewells of everyone. Not long after, Minato and Kakashi also appeared in front of the crowd. Uncle Minato, thank you for your hospitality this time. Sasuke bowed slightly to Minato. Minato smiled and said, no need to be so formal. After all, I was the one who brought you back to Hidden Leaf Village. Kakashi. Sasuke then turned to the white-haired youth who was engrossed in reading. Goodbye. Ah, goodbye. Kakashi responded, lifting his head from his book. Sasuke nodded to everyone once more. Well then, I'm leaving. Goodbye. Take care. See you later. Everyone spoke up one after another. Sasuke took one last look at Kakashi, Naruto, and Sakura, then turned and left. Sasuke. Naruto suddenly shouted. You better not die. Next time, I'll definitely defeat you. Sasuke-kun. Please take care of yourself. Sakura also called out. Without looking back, Sasuke waved his hand, quickened his pace, and disappeared into the forest. Don't worry. Kakashi patted Naruto and Sakura on the shoulders. Sasuke is being watched over. Isn't Uncle Kaito not here? Naruto asked, turning his head. Well, Sasuke is someone he values highly. That guy wouldn't just let Sasuke roam around on his own. Kakashi explained briefly, then turned to walk back into the village. Alright, let's head back. Everyone dispersed. Team Guy's 3 members were walking side by side down the street. Neji. Tenten. Lee suddenly suggested. Let's go train. Huh? Again? Tenten clutched her stomach with a grimace. We just finished eating BBQ not long ago. How about resting first? I ate a lot to keep up the spirit of the gathering. No. Neji also flatly refused. I have things to do today, so I'm heading back. After saying this, he quickened his pace and headed toward the Hyuga clan's residence. Hey. Neji. Lee reached out his hand. Sensei said that youth doesn't allow for slacking. Sorry. Neji dodged and disappeared. See you tomorrow. What's going on? Lee watched Neji's back as he walked away, a bit worried. Tenten, Neji seems a bit strange. Maybe the topics from the gathering brought back some unpleasant memories for him. Tenten guessed. Although I don't understand what he and Sasuke were talking about. Lee placed his hands on his hips, seemingly igniting with passion. But training is sacred, and avoiding it is shameful. Since Neji left, Tenten, you and I should train together. Ha ha ha. Tenten forced a laugh. Well, I also need to go home for some special training, so see you tomorrow. After saying this, she quickly slipped away. Why is it like this? Lee was deeply hurt. At the Hyuga residence, Neji passed through the complex courtyards and returned to his own house. After entering and closing the door, he immediately activated his Byakugan, observing the surroundings for a moment. Then, he pulled a slip of paper from his sleeve. 7 p.m., Southern Nakagawa Bridge. This was the note Sasuke secretly gave him before leaving. So that's how it is. Neji clenched the paper tightly, crushing it, and then fell into deep thought. No wonder Sasuke brought up the Tropic of Revenge at the BBQ restaurant. Neji walked to the shrine where his parents' photos were placed. Father. He clenched his fists. What should I do? Time passed, and Neji remained motionless in front of the shrine. Sasuke must have some motive for seeking him out, and Neji found himself somewhat tempted. Sasuke couldn't possibly be unaware of the Hyuga clan's caged bird curse. Knowing full well Neji's situation and yet still approaching him in private, Sasuke might have a plan. Touching the ugly caged bird seal on his forehead, Neji's eyes grew cold, and he made a decision. Perhaps. Father, Mother. Neji deeply bowed before his parents' shrine. Please protect me. At 6, 50 p.m. Neji strolled alone along the banks of the Nakagawa River, finally sitting on the grass beside the wooden bridge, silently watching the flowing water. He kept his Byakugan active the whole time, but as it approached 7 p.m., he still hadn't seen any sign of Sasuke. Could that guy be messing with me? Neji's expression darkened. Suddenly, a faint light flickered under the bridge. Neji's eyes sharpened, and he stood up, walking toward the bridge. As night fell, the area under the bridge was shrouded in darkness. "You're here." Sasuke's voice suddenly rang out as he stepped out from behind one of the bridge's wooden pillars. "You?" Neji's eyes widened in shock. "How is this possible?" "Surprised, aren't you? Even your Byakugan didn't detect my presence," Sasuke said with a smug tone. "How did you do it?" Neji asked, his disbelief evident. "A talisman from my uncle." Sasuke was happy to answer. "My uncle, Kaido Uchiha, is an onmyoji." "Onmyoji? I've heard of him." Neji forced himself to calm down. "It's good that you've heard of him." Sasuke raised his chin proudly. "Then, you should know that for a non-myoji, the caged bird seal isn't something unsolvable." "Do you even realize what you're saying?" Neji asked in a low voice. "Of course I do." Sasuke smiled. "I want to invite you to be my partner." "What do you mean?" Neji asked, a bit angry. Sasuke didn't answer directly. "Neji Hyuga, do you want to avenge your father?" "My father sacrificed himself willingly," Neji shouted, his voice low and hoarse. "That was his free choice." "Free, if you want to believe that." Sasuke didn't argue. "Then, do you want to break the caged bird seal and gain freedom?" Neji opened his mouth, swallowing his saliva. "Explain yourself clearly. Otherwise, I'll report this to the 5th Hokage." "Hey." Sasuke chuckled. "I'm looking for Itachi's whereabouts, and I need your Byakugan's help. You can choose to join my team, act with me, and I'll ask my uncle to break your caged bird seal. If you want revenge, I can help with that, too. Of course, you can also treat this as just a mission. The reward for completing the mission will be breaking the caged bird seal. After the mission is done, we'll go our separate ways." "How do I know if what you're saying is true?" Neji's heart was racing, but he remained calm. "Everything I've said is true." Sasuke's eyes glowed faintly red, and the patterns in his eyes became more complex. "With these eyes, there's now a huge gap between us. I have no need to deceive you." "You?" Neji stared at him, shocked, and then whispered. "I need time to think it over." "Fine. I'll wait for you near the fire temple for 3 days." Sasuke said flatly. "If you don't show up within 3 days, I'll leave the land of fire." "Or?" Sasuke smiled again. "You can report this and let Hidden Leaf Village send people to hunt me down. That's it, goodbye." With a puff, the Sasuke in front of Neji turned into smoke and disappeared. Neji stood in confusion for a long time before finally turning to leave from under the bridge. Chapter 173. It was night when Sasuke walked into an inn in Tensaku town. The rather plump owner welcomed him, saying, "Welcome, guest." Sasuke's eyes flashed red, and he whispered, "I am Sasuke Uchiha." "Oh, it's Sasuke-kun." The smile on the owner's face became more genuine. "I am Ryota. Are you from the Tanuki clan as well?" Sasuke continued in a low voice. Ryota nodded and enthusiastically said, "Come, let me take you to the best room to rest." He then started walking toward the stairs leading to the second floor. "Thank you," Sasuke said as he followed behind him. The two climbed the stairs, walked down a long corridor, and Ryota stopped. "This is it." Ryota opened the sliding door. "Sasuke-kun, you can stay as long as you'd like. Just for tonight. I'll be leaving tomorrow." Sasuke replied, entering the room and inspecting the decor. "Understood. Sasuke-kun, rest well. Someone will bring dinner later." With that, Ryota closed the door and left. Sasuke walked over to the window, opened it, and looked outside. Then he approached the low table, removed his sword and ninja tool pouch from his waist, and placed them on the table before kneeling down. "Grandfather Izuna." Sasuke called out softly as he opened the ninja tool pouch. A paper figure floated out of the pouch, quickly enlarging and taking human form. "What's the matter?" Izuna asked, tilting his head and stretching his limbs. "Nothing, I just thought you might want to stretch a bit." Sasuke pulled out a communication paper figure and activated it. Izuna chuckled and sat down beside him. "Sasuke," came the voice of Kaido. "Is something the matter?" "Uncle," Sasuke said, placing the paper figure on the table and recounting the series of events he'd experienced in Hidden Leaf Village, with a special focus on Neji Hyuga. "Hyuga?" Kaito sounded surprised. "What are you thinking?" "I'm going to search for Itachi next, but I'm not good at sensing, so I want someone to assist me." Sasuke said nonchalantly. There's some logic to that, but it's not a complete reason. You have the crows to help gather intelligence. Kaido sharply pointed out. Furthermore, not only would I need to study the caged bird seal, but taking a member of the Hyuga clan from Hidden Leaf Village would cause a lot of trouble, and the reward wouldn't be worth the effort. Uncle, you once mentioned that the Hyuga clan also possesses Kaguya's bloodline. Sasuke said seriously. Studying the Byakugan and the caged bird might yield unexpected results. Maybe. After all, the Byakugan is more like Kaguya's eyes. Kaido replied, not particularly interested. Is that Neji boy talented? Yes, his father was the twin brother of Hayashi Hyuga, and his talent surpasses that of the clan's eldest daughter, Hinata Hyuga. Sasuke explained Neji's background. It's clear he harbors a deep resentment towards the main family, and despite no formal guidance, he's learned advanced gentle fist techniques that are only taught to the main branch. The Hyuga, huh? Their clan's power ceiling isn't very high. Izuna chimed in. In the world of ordinary ninja, the Byakugan paired with gentle fist might be strong, but in front of true powerhouses, their techniques don't really hold up. Since you've decided, go ahead with your own plan. Kaito said. By the way, does you know anything about the origin of the caged bird? I'm not sure. The Hyuga have always done things that way. Izuna said disdainfully. I see. Maybe the caged bird seal really does hide some secret. If that the boy chooses to follow you, I'll take a closer look. Kaido concluded. Is there anything else? No. Sasuke replied, picking up the communication paper figure. Then we'll leave it at that. Kaido cut the connection, and the communication paper figure fell silent. You said all that just to help that Hyuga boy? Izuna asked, smiling at Sasuke. He just happens to be useful to me. Sasuke said, putting the paper figure back into the ninja tool pouch. Besides, it depends on whether he has the courage. Humphrey, maybe. Izuna chuckled. But if he really defects from Hidden Leaf Village, have you thought about Hidden Leaf Village's reaction? That's a choice he would make for himself. Sasuke replied. I'm just giving him a new option. Then your newly mended relationship with your classmates in Hidden Leaf Village will be completely ruined. Izuna teased. It doesn't matter. Sasuke said indifferently. When it comes time to face the Otsutsuki clan, we'll all be on the same side again. Still green, huh? Izuna thought, shaking his head but saying no more. This was Sasuke's choice, and he wouldn't interfere. All he needed to do was make sure the boy stayed alive. Hidden Leaf Village, Nara clan. Dad. Shikamaru opened the door and called out. Shikamaru, what are you doing out here? Sitting on the veranda, Nara Shikaku glanced at him, taking a swig from a small sake bottle. You're sneaking drinks behind Mom's back again. Shikamaru said, stepping outside and leaning against a column. Don't tell your mother. Shikaku said, looking up at the night sky. TCH, I'm not that bored. Shikamaru also looked up at the starry sky. Why aren't you asleep yet? Is something bothering you? Shikaku asked, putting down the bottle. I don't know how to put it. Shikamaru said, scratching his head in frustration. Maybe I shouldn't doubt my comrades, but Sasuke and Neji were acting strange today. Oh? Shikaku's drunken gaze suddenly cleared. Did something happen during your gathering? I'm not sure. Because of Sasuke, there were probably Anbu monitoring us during the gathering. Shikamaru lazily slid down the column and sat on the ground, his face troubled. Maybe I'm just overthinking. Don't underestimate your intuition. Shikaku said, taking another swig from the bottle. If you feel something's off, it means you've already got some ideas. Just follow your own judgment. This is such a drag. Shikamaru said, staring lifelessly at the sky. Why do I have to take on these troublesome tasks? Hey, my son. Shikaku shook the now empty bottle, tossed it into the bushes, and stood up, looking at Shikamaru. Shikamaru, you're smart. You've always known what needs to be done and what doesn't. I've always trusted you. He turned and walked inside. Go, and do what a Hidden Leaf Village ninja should. I knew. Shikamaru drawled, slowly getting to his feet. I'm going to find Choji. Go ahead. Shikaku waved dismissively as he entered the house and closed the door. Such a drag. Shikamaru muttered, stretching before his expression grew serious. I never thought there'd come a day when I'd willingly take on something this troublesome. He pulled at his sleeve, leapt onto the roof, and headed toward Choji's house. Chapter 174, Early in the morning, Sasuke bid farewell to Ryota, who had disguised himself as the innkeeper, and left Danzaku town. Meanwhile, in Hidden Leaf Village, Neji was assigned a mission to leave the village on his own. After Neji departed from the village gates, Shikamaru emerged from a nearby alley. Shikamaru, isn't what we're doing a bit wrong? Choji, who stood behind Shikamaru, was somewhat uneasy. If my suspicions are incorrect, I'll sincerely apologize to Neji later. Shikamaru frowned. Now it's up to you two, Shino and Kiba. Leave it to me. Kiba, riding on Akamaru's back, responded eagerly. Tracking Neji won't be easy. Shino said, stepping out from the shadows. If you're wondering why, it's because the moment he leaves Hidden Leaf Village, he'll activate his Byakugan and easily detect us. I'll calculate the Byakugan's range of vision. We'll keep our distance. Shikamaru took the lead and walked toward the gate. Let's go. I even got travel permits from my dad for this. Shikamaru. Choji still hesitated. Shouldn't we tell Naruto? TCH, if that guy knew about our plan, he'd cause a big scene. Shikamaru thought for a moment. Here's the plan, Choji, Kiba, and I will move first. Shino, you go inform Kakashi-sensei, as well as Naruto and Sakura. Understood. Shino nodded, extending his hand. I'll place parasitic insects on you all. I'll catch up with you later. Alright then. Shikamaru looked at his companions. Let's move out. Swoosh. The group quickly leaped into action, splitting up to carry out their plan. At the Fire Temple. The Fire Temple, being one of the most prominent temples in the Land of Fire, occupied a vast area with many monks and a strong incense tradition. Sasuke sat on a tall tree far from the Fire Temple, gazing at the enormous Tenga statues flanking the temple's entrance. As noon approached, Sasuke pulled out some rations and began eating. According to the intel, the temple's abbot was Chiraku, one of the 12 guardian ninja who protected the daimyo of the Land of Fire. The monks also possessed a unique secret technique called the Talent of the Sage Clan. To avoid trouble, Sasuke refrained from getting too close. After all, Neji with his Byakugan would definitely be able to find him. Sure enough, it didn't take long before Neji, dressed in white, appeared within Sasuke's line of sight. You're here. Sasuke smirked, jumping down from the tree. I didn't expect you to make your decision so quickly. I'm just here on a mission. Neji said coldly. If I can't resolve the caged bird curse mark, the main house will soon drag me back. I'll tell them you kidnapped me. I see, you want some tangible results first. Sasuke nodded. That's reasonable. He turned around. Follow me. The two quickly leaped through the trees, moving far away from the Fire Temple. Lord Sasuke. Suddenly, a rough voice echoed from the sky. Sasuke stopped and raised his hand, allowing a black crow to land on it. Did you find anything, Jin? There are people. The crow flapped its wings. Someone is following the Byakugan boy. Looks like you're being tracked. Sasuke turned to Neji. I haven't kept my Byakugan activated all the time to conserve chakra. Neji frowned deeply, forming hand seals. Byakugan. That's Shikamaru, Choji, and Kiba. Neji said, a bit surprised. Looks like Shikamaru figured something out. Sasuke was also caught off guard. TCH, as expected of someone from Nara clan. He then asked Neji. What are you going to do? Neji responded firmly. Until there's concrete proof the caged bird can be undone, I won't openly betray Hidden Leaf Village. Alright then, before they catch up to us, Sasuke took out 2 cloaking seals, infused them with natural energy, and placed one on himself and the other on Neji. This will temporarily mask our presence. Let's put some distance between us and them. Neji nodded with a stern expression. With that, the two accelerated their pace and quickly left the area. Soon after, Kiba led Shikamaru and Choji to the same spot. Wait. Kiba raised his hand and sniffed the air. Something's off. What's wrong? Shikamaru and Choji approached Kiba. Kiba sniffed again, frowning at Akamaru. The scent has disappeared, Akamaru. Woof, woof. Akamaru lowered his head, sniffing the ground and barking a few times. TCH, even Akamaru can't smell anything. Kiba scratched Akamaru's head. What's going on? Did they just vanish? Shikamaru observed the surroundings carefully. Could it be a space-time jutsu? Search the area thoroughly. Look for any footprints or clues. Shikamaru ordered. Got it. The three spread out and began their search. Meanwhile, Sasuke and Neji arrived at a cliff. This should be a good spot. Sasuke said, turning to Neji. It'll be easier for you to spot any trackers with your Byakugan. What are you planning to do? Neji started to wonder if he had been too impulsive. This guy Sasuke. He doesn't seem very reliable. Of course, I'm going to let my uncle examine your curse mark. Sasuke gave Neji a strange look. Wasn't that what you wanted? Your uncle? Where is he? Neji also looked at Sasuke curiously. He had already used his Byakugan and confirmed there was no one else around. You'll know soon enough. Sasuke smirked confidently, taking out a paper clone. What's this? Neji began to question if he had made the wrong choice. Watch. Sasuke infused natural energy into the paper, which quickly expanded, and Kaido appeared before the two. "So, this is the Hyuga kid?" Kaito said, smiling as he looked at the wide-eyed Neji staring at him. "Yes, he's Neji Hyuga. Uncle, please help him examine the curse mark. Hidden Leaf Village's pursuers are already nearby," Sasuke said anxiously. "I know." Kaito walked over to Neji. "Your name is Neji, right? Let me take a look at your caged bird curse mark." Neji, having regained his composure, felt a glimmer of hope due to Kaido's impressive display. He obediently removed the bandage wrapped around his forehead. Kaido closed his eyes, and when he reopened them, his Mangekyo Sharingan was activated. He extended his right hand and placed it gently on Neji's forehead. Neji felt a cooling sensation enter his brain, making his body stiffen as he stood motionless. Inwardly, he chastised himself for losing his composure at the mention of the caged bird curse mark, thinking he had been too impulsive. After a long while, Kaito withdrew his hand and thought for a moment. Then, much to Neji's anxious anticipation, he said, "I understand. I'm sorry, but I can't undo the curse mark right now." As expected, Neji let out a self-deprecating chuckle. "It's just my fate. Don't be so hasty." Kaido shook his head. "I'm not finished speaking." Looking at Neji, who seemed not to hear him, Kaido continued. "Though I can't remove it yet, I can temporarily block the main house's control over you." "Are you serious?" Neji's head shot up in disbelief. "Of course." Kaito smiled confidently. "Also, I've gained some insight into the curse mark. With some thorough research, I believe I'll be able to remove it eventually." "Really?" Neji still couldn't quite believe it. "Of course it's true." Sasuke stepped up next to Kaito. Chapter 175, Kiba shouted while looking up. "Hey! Neji!" Sasuke glanced at the three people below and said softly. "TCH, they came pretty quickly." Shikamaru spoke up. "Neji, since the mission is done, come back with us." Hearing this, Sasuke chuckled softly and turned to look at Neji. Neji, however, kept his head down as if suppressing some intense emotions, remaining silent. Sasuke didn't say anything more and simply sat cross-legged on the rock. "Go up," Shikamaru whispered, and the three below immediately started moving. The three of them, along with Akamaru, jumped repeatedly on the cliff, quickly reaching the top and surrounding Sasuke and Neji. Shikamaru asked, "Sasuke, what do you want with Neji?" "I want him to become my companion." Sasuke answered directly. "TCH, if we end up fighting, even though we have the numbers, we probably won't gain much of an advantage. We need to stall the two of them and wait for reinforcements." Shikamaru quickly calculated the situation and said politely. "Neji is a ninja of Hidden Leaf Village. If you need help, you can go to Hidden Leaf Village and issue a mission. What you're saying makes some sense, but I still prefer for him to be a permanent member of my team." Sasuke smiled at Shikamaru. "Of course, it's his choice. I won't force him." "Sasuke, you're just as arrogant and annoying as ever." Kiba, with his fiery temper, was getting angry. "Are you trying to become an enemy of Hidden Leaf Village?" "That's not what I'm after." Sasuke raised his right hand to support his face. "Like I said, I'm not forcing him." Neji. Choji, growing anxious, looked at the still silent Neji. "Say something." Shikamaru stepped forward and stared at Neji. "Neji, I didn't report this to the Hokage. Come back with us, and we can pretend this never happened." "There's no going back." Neji suddenly raised his head, speaking decisively. "I can't go back anymore." "Neji, have you made your decision?" Sasuke turned to him. Neji touched the curse mark on his forehead and answered softly. "Yeah, though I still can't fully trust you, I desperately want to experience freedom, even if it costs me everything." "Don't worry." Sasuke smiled. "You won't regret it." "Are you really going to defect, Neji?" Shikamaru shouted sternly. Neji looked up at Shikamaru and suddenly laughed. "All along, I convinced myself with the concept of fate and accepted a life where I had no control. Even though my heart was burning with rage, I learned to resign myself to it." He placed a hand over his heart, his expression becoming serious. "This is my last struggle. I just want to see if a bird trapped in a cage can really break free and taste freedom. You, who have lived your life in happiness, can't understand how I feel." As he spoke, it seemed like Neji had let go of a heavy burden, and his entire demeanor became relaxed. "Shikamaru, you're really smart. You noticed a few clues and tracked me down." Shikamaru sighed. "It's because you two were acting too suspicious, suddenly discussing sensitive topics in public." "Oh? I thought I've always been that way," Neji said. "After all, back in the first Chunin exam, I talked a lot about those topics." "It was Sasuke." Shikamaru looked at Sasuke. You're not someone who cares about others' personal affairs, yet you suddenly started discussing them with Neji. That's what was off. Huh? So it's my fault? Sasuke felt a bit embarrassed. He glanced at Neji and then, acting nonchalant, said, I see. So that's it. I thought I got caught last night by the Naka River. Neji's lips twitched slightly before he casually said, Shikamaru, Choji, Kiba, are you three the only ones? No offense, but just the three of you can't stop Sasuke and me. Bastard. Are you looking down on us? Kiba patted Akamaru's head, crouching down. Ninja art, 4 legs technique. Oh? Are you preparing to fight? Sasuke stood up, placing his hand on his sword. Damn. Such intense pressure. Shikamaru felt the overwhelming aura radiating from Sasuke, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. Sasuke, don't attack. Neji suddenly reached out to stop Sasuke. Leave them to me. Hey, worried I'll go too hard on them. Sasuke glanced at him with a smile, then withdrew his aura and obediently sat back down. Neji formed hand seals, and the veins around his eyes bulged. Byakugan. Shikamaru steadied himself and suddenly retreated, shouting. Attack. Ninja art, partial multi-size technique. Choji's right hand suddenly enlarged, launching the first attack. At the same time, Kiba immediately jumped onto Akamaru's back and formed seals. Ninja art, beast human clone. With a puff of smoke, 2 identical Kibas appeared, rushing at Neji with sharp claws. Neji leaped, dodging Choji's large, heavy hand with agility. He advanced swiftly, preparing his gentle fist stance, meeting Kiba's attack head-on. As Hinata's companion, Kiba was well aware of the power of the gentle fist's pressure point strikes and dared not let Neji's attacks land on either him or Akamaru. Instead, he relied on his teamwork with his dog, constantly engaging in a back and forth with Neji. Standing behind, Shikamaru frowned. As expected, members from different teams lack synergy. Kiba and Choji have no coordination at all. Now that Kiba and Akamaru were in close combat with Neji, it made it difficult for Choji to intervene. Shikamaru glanced at Sasuke, who was sitting there enjoying the show. That guy won't interfere for now. We should focus on capturing Neji first. Shikamaru crouched down silently, forming hand seals, and his shadow stretched out, moving toward Neji's shadow without making a sound. Neji suddenly moved, dodging Kiba and Akamaru's strikes while swiftly evading Shikamaru's shadow. Trying to ambush me is pointless in front of the Byakugan. TCH, of course, I know that. Shikamaru replied, but his shadow continued to chase relentlessly. Suddenly, Choji's 2 hands grew large simultaneously, closing in on Neji and compressing his space to dodge. At the same time, Kiba and Akamaru took their stances. Fang over fang. Kiba and Akamaru spun like 2 tornadoes, rushing toward Neji at high speed. Rotation. Neji's chakra surged from his body's pressure points as he spun rapidly, forming a large spinning chakra sphere around him. Boom. A loud crash echoed as the 2 tornadoes collided with Neji's rotation, sending Kiba and Akamaru flying backward. The moment Neji stopped spinning, he advanced again, dodging Shikamaru's shadow and closing in on Choji. Choji hurriedly tried to pull his hands back, but Neji's palm was already aimed at his chest. Shadow sewing technique. Shikamaru's shadow chased after Neji, and the shadow on the ground suddenly shot up, turning into sharp black tendrils aimed at Neji's back. I told you, ambushes are useless. Neji abandoned his attack on Choji, leaping high into the air and stepping on Choji's enlarged arm. Then he leaped again, avoiding Kiba and Akamaru's strike, finally landing in front of Sasuke. Chapter 176, I told you, you won't be able to stop me. Neji said to the 3 of them, then flashed again, standing next to Sasuke. Sasuke, let's go. Fine, if we keep dragging this out, more troublesome people might come. Sasuke stood up, turned, and jumped off the cliff. Stop. Kiba desperately rushed forward. Goodbye. Neji turned, glanced back, and then jumped off as well. Damn it. Kiba looked down, seeing Sasuke and Neji had already disappeared into the dense forest, once again losing their trail. Woof. 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 Akamaru barked a few times, then pounced, and Kiba jumped onto his back. Akamaru, follow them. Kiba pointed forward, and Akamaru crouched slightly before leaping down the cliff. After them. Shikamaru and Choji hurriedly followed as well. In the forest, Sasuke once again took out a suppression talisman and placed it on both himself and Neji. Quick, we need to move. Neji quickened his pace. More people are coming. Who? Sasuke asked. Gai-sensei, Kakashi, Lee, Ten, Naruto, Sakura, and Shino. Neji's voice was slightly rushed. And also the head of the Hyuga clan. TSK, this is getting serious. Sasuke frowned. All the troublesome people have arrived. Neji suddenly smiled excitedly. The fact that the Hyuga clan head, my uncle, is here proves that your uncle wasn't lying. He can no longer control me with a caged bird seal. Sasuke reminded him. If you've spotted them, it means the head of the Hyuga clan has seen us too. But Neji didn't panic. Instead, he said. If you dare to act, you must have considered the consequences. I don't believe you don't have a way to get us out of this. Ah, but don't forget one other possibility. Sasuke's tone was not as relaxed. The fourth Hokage. If he suddenly intervenes, I might not be able to take you away. Don't try to scare me. Neji said calmly. The fourth Hokage's resurrection is definitely connected to your uncle. I'm just preparing for the worst. Sasuke suddenly stopped walking. Let's stop here. Continuing like this will only waste chakra without achieving anything. True. Neji turned and jumped onto the tree where Sasuke stood. Let me say goodbye to Guy-sensei and the others. To my knowledge, your teacher is quite a dangerous person. Sasuke frowned slightly. If he really tries to stop us, we'll be in trouble. That's up to you. Neji said. I don't have any way to deal with Guy-sensei. TSK, always giving me the hard tasks. Sasuke grumbled, rubbing his lower eyelid. If I have to seriously injure him, you won't agree, right? Neji nodded. Yes, even though I chose freedom, I can't stand to see them seriously hurt. Fine, I respect your opinion. Sasuke muttered. Humphrey, would you hurt Kakashi, Naruto, or Sakura? Neji shot back. Sasuke stayed silent. If he hadn't met his uncle back then, maybe he really would have. But after gaining more, he no longer pursued his goals ruthlessly. They're here. Neji warned. Sasuke. Neji. Before the people arrived, Naruto's angry shout echoed through the sky. TSK. Sasuke frowned in irritation. That guy's so loud. In the next moment, all the Hidden Leaf Village pursuers appeared in Sasuke's line of sight. Sasuke. Neji. Naruto appeared on a large tree opposite Sasuke, glaring angrily at the two. Why? Why are you doing this? Naruto, quiet down. Kakashi appeared behind him, pressing down on his shoulder. Neji. Neji, you bastard. Guy and Lee stood on the ground, staring at Neji in confusion. Tenten leaned against a tree, panting, her eyes already red. Guy-sensei, Lee, Tenten. Neji's gaze swept across them and finally landed on the middle-aged man with long hair standing in the center. Uncle. Neji. Hayashi Hyuga looked sternly at the boy in the tree. Do you truly know what you're doing? Of course I know, Uncle. Neji met his gaze fearlessly. Ridiculous. Betraying the village without cause. You're going to drag the Hyuga clan's reputation through the mud. Hayashi scolded harshly. Ha ha ha. Neji suddenly found it amusing, so he laughed out loud. Reputation? He pointed at his forehead, his voice filled with hatred. What a grand reputation. A reputation built by harming family members, it would be better off destroyed. You. Hayashi's face turned ashen. The Hyuga clan has always operated this way. It's a safeguard our ancestors set up for the clan's continuation. Humphrey. Easy for you to say since it's not carved on your forehead. Neji remained unmoved. You're just scared because you can no longer control me through the curse mark. Stop this nonsense, Neji. Hayashi's tone suddenly calmed. You won't be able to leave here today. Hey, if I can't leave, you'll kill me, won't you? Neji stared coldly at Hayashi. Once the other branch members learn that the caged bird seal can be blocked, the Hyuga clan might fall apart instantly. You're talking nonsense, Neji. Before Hayashi could react, Might Guy stepped forward. Come back with me, Neji. I swear on my title as hot-blooded teacher Might Guy, I won't let anything happen to you. You don't have such a title. Everyone present thought that at the same time. Except Lee. Neji. Guy-sensei is right. Come back with us now. Lee shouted. Neji, you jerk. Tenten suddenly burst into tears, sobbing as tears streamed down her face. Is this some sort of rebellious phase? Guy-sensei, Lee, Tenten, stop saying such foolish things. Neji clenched his fist tightly, though his expression remained calm. At this point, there's no going back for me. Neji, my dear student. Guy's expression suddenly turned serious. Even if I have to break your arms and legs, I'll take you back. And you. Sasuke. On the other side, Naruto pointed at Sasuke. You jerk. Look what you've done. You're so noisy, Naruto. Sasuke covered one ear with his hand. This was Neji's choice, I didn't force him. You clearly seduced him. Naruto yelled, unrelenting. It's enticed. Kakashi, a literature lover, quickly corrected Naruto's word choice. Sasuke covered his face, the blood red of his Sharingan gleaming coldly through his fingers as he glared at Naruto. His voice turned dark. Naruto, you idiot. Say one more word, and I'll cut you down. I just used the wrong word. Naruto, startled, muttered a few words, and quickly shut his mouth under Sasuke's murderous gaze. What are you doing? Neji asked, exasperated. Nothing. Sasuke took a deep breath, then calmly lowered his hand, his expression returning to its usual calm. Do you have a way to escape? If Guy-sensei makes a move, it'll be too late. Neji asked in a hushed voice, doubting several times whether he had boarded a sinking ship. Don't worry. The patterns in Sasuke's eyes grew more intricate as he weaved signs with his hands. Susanoo. Sasuke grabbed Neji's arm, and the two of them landed on the ground together. At the same time, a massive purple half-skeleton appeared from thin air, enveloping them both. Chapter 177, This is. Hayashi's eyes widened. Chakra. Materialized? At the same time, Might Guy's iron fist hit the giant half-body skeleton. What is this? Neji, seeing Might Guy's punch fail, looked at Sasuke in surprise. This is Susanoo, the ultimate eye technique that only those who awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan of the Uchiha clan can possess. As Sasuke spoke, the giant skeleton quickly grew muscles and blood vessels, and then was covered in dense armor. With this, we can hold them off for a while. And then? Seeing that the Hidden Leaf Village crowd had begun attacking in turns. Especially Sakura, who cracked a fissure with one punch. Neji couldn't help but feel anxious. And then, of course, we ask for help. Seeing Sakura's impressive form, Sasuke shivered and quickly reached into his pocket, activating a paper doll. Kaido's paper clone appeared beside them. Sasuke, I warned you long ago. Kaido, sensing their predicament, spoke with a hint of helplessness. I didn't expect you'd still end up in such a troublesome situation. While controlling Susanoo to fend off the Hidden Leaf Village group, Sasuke said. This is how it is, uncle. Please help us escape. You little rascal, always acting without thinking. Kaito said irritably. Kaido, what are you up to? Kakashi, usually so laid back, was now somewhat angry. Ah, I knew it. This will definitely be blamed on me in the end. Kaido covered his face. Kaido, hand over Neji. Hayashi said cautiously, watching Kaido. The Hyuga clan and the Uchiha clan have always kept to themselves. Don't make the wrong move lightly. Kaido glanced indifferently at Hayashi but didn't reply. Kaido, are you saying this was all Sasuke's idea? Kakashi continued. As an elder, you shouldn't spoil him too much. Kaito sighed. Well, what can I do? He's the only heir we have left. Spoiling him is the least of our worries. How laughable. Do you think the Uchiha clan is still Hidden Leaf Village's greatest clan, and that boy is still a young master? Hayashi seemed infuriated by Kaido's disregard. Kaito still paid him no mind and looked at Kakashi instead. Since Sasuke wants Neji as a companion, I'll allow it. Hidden Leaf Village won't just stand by and let this happen. Kakashi revealed his Mangekyo Sharingan. Then let's see what we can do. Kaito replied. Sasuke, hold on for now. Got it. Sasuke responded, continuing to deal with Hidden Leaf Village's relentless attacks. Damn it, Guy-sensei. Lee looked at Guy with determination. Is it time to save our companion? Lee, I permit you to use the 8 gates technique. Guy's eyes seemed to burn with fire. Together, let's bring Neji back. Yes, Guy-sensei. Formation of the 8 gates, 6th gate, Gate of View, open. With a powerful surge of energy, Lee and Guy opened the 6th gate simultaneously, then rushed forward at blinding speed. Step aside. The other Hidden Leaf Village ninjas quickly backed away. Guy and Lee became blurred shadows, their fists and kicks striking Sasuke's Susanoo like a storm. Crack, crack. The sound of shattering echoed as cracks appeared on the semi-transparent Susanoo, only to be repaired moments later. Sasuke, can you hold on? Beneath Kaido's feet, a golden mist began to rise. For now, yes. Sasuke was clearly gritting his teeth to endure. Don't push yourself too hard. Your Mangekyo Sharingan can't be overused. Kaito took a step forward, and the golden mist instantly surged up, covering his body. I'll handle it from here. Kaito formed hand seals. Ramyaku protection. Blinding golden lights burst from his hands, quickly expanding into a semi-transparent sphere that enveloped all three of them. Guy and Lee were suddenly pushed back. At the same time, Sasuke's Susanoo shattered inch by inch. Sasuke groaned, clutching his slightly sore eyes. I've got this. Kakashi suddenly leaped forward, his left eye's Mangekyo spinning rapidly. Kami. The space in front of him began to warp. Crack, crack. The golden barrier started to fracture under the strain of space distortion. Kaido calmly extended his hands, placing them on the shoulders of Sasuke and Neji. The golden mist flowed instantly, wrapping around the two boys. Time to go. The three, wrapped in golden energy, slowly sank into the ground. Sasuke. Neji. Naruto's enraged voice roared as chains shot into the sky, racing towards their targets. With a crisp cracking sound, the golden barrier shattered under the space distortion, and Naruto's sealing chains arrived. But just before the chains could reach them, the three had fully sunk into the ground and disappeared. Damn it! Damn it! Naruto descended, red-eyed, and knelt on the ground, furiously pounding the spot where the three had vanished. Kakashi covered his eye and looked back at Hiashi. Hiashi frowned deeply and shook his head at Kakashi. They still got away. Kakashi lowered his headband and sat on the ground, dejected. Neji. Lee, exhausted, leaned against a tree, his large round eyes filled with tears. Lee. Guy's expression was deeply sorrowful, his eyes brimming with tears. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm just an unqualified teacher. Guy-sensei, you're not. Lee wiped his tears forcefully and looked up at Guy. I've always watched you charge forward without hesitation. I believe that one day, if not today, you'll bring Neji back. Lee. Guy hugged his disciple, tears streaming down his face. Thank you for believing in me. Guy-sensei. Lee hugged him tightly in return. At that moment, Tenten was too overwhelmed to mock the tearful bear. The moment Neji disappeared, her legs had gone weak, and she collapsed helplessly to the ground. Sakura, seeing Tenten's trembling shoulders, felt a pang of shared sadness. Tenten, are you okay? She knelt beside her, resting a hand on Tenten's shoulder. She opened her mouth to speak but didn't know what words could offer any comfort. Tenten raised her head, biting her lower lip to stifle her sobs, but couldn't stop herself from cursing through her tears. Idiots. Fools. She couldn't hold back anymore and hugged Sakura tightly. Those guys are all stupid jerks. It's so infuriating. Sob sob sob. Tenten, you. Sakura was a little surprised, gently patting Tenten's back. Yeah, boys are all terrible jerks. Boys always chase after things girls don't understand, recklessly hurting our fragile hearts. We're all just fellow sufferers in this world. Sob sob. Why? Tenten choked out. Why didn't he tell me anything? Is Sasuke really more important than me? Sakura's expression became slightly complicated. She sighed and patted Tenten's back again. This fool. She's just like how I used to be. She needs to understand, boys don't think like girls. It's not about comparing like that. Look at me. Do you think I ever cared about how Naruto and I rank in Sasuke's heart? I've long since gotten used to it. As her thoughts spiraled, Sakura's smile grew more and more twisted. But wait, I still care a lot. Chapter 178, in the dim forest, the ground was covered with a thick layer of decaying leaves. Golden ripples spread across the ground as three figures, wrapped in golden energy, slowly rose from within. I can't send you beyond the country's borders, Kaito said as he withdrew the energy of Rumyaku surrounding the three. The paper clones were only barely activated by Sasuke, so they won't last long in the Earth's veins. It's fine. Sasuke said confidently. We can get out of the land of fire ourselves. Don't underestimate Hidden Leaf Village's tracking ability. Neji interjected. Especially now, the news of my defection can't be hidden anymore. The Hyuga clan will surely do everything in their power to find me. In any case, be careful. Kaito said, though he wasn't particularly worried, as Izuna was still with them. Neji looked at Kaito, hesitating to speak. Kaito smiled gently. Are you wondering about the caged bird seal? Yes. Neji responded eagerly, looking at him. Although I didn't have much time, I did manage to do some research. Kaito stretched out his right hand, and blue spiritual energy flowed from his palm, quickly forming a transparent, three-dimensional human head. The skull, brain, and nerves were clearly visible. This is the current state of your brain, Neji. Neji focused on the deep blue mark on the forehead of the transparent head and looked inside. Do you see? The darkest part represents the power of the curse mark. As Kaito explained, the head slowly rotated in his hand. The curse mark is intertwined with the optic nerve and even extends deep into the brain. Neji's expression darkened. That's how the main branch of the family can destroy the eyes and brain tissue of the side branch with the curse mark. Exactly. Kaito dispersed the image in his hand. The curse mark has penetrated too deeply, and the brain and optic nerves are very delicate, so completely removing the caged bird seal is not an easy task. Neji calmed himself and said seriously. It's okay, I can wait. He touched the mark on his forehead, a faint smile forming at the corners of his mouth. Now that I've escaped the main family's control, I'm already satisfied. Don't worry, I'll continue researching it. I've discovered some interesting things. Kaito said with a smile. However, there's something I need your permission for. What is it? Neji asked. I suspect the caged bird seal might even affect the soul. Kaito said, looking seriously into Neji's eyes. If you agree, give me your blood. I want to summon your father's spirit. This. Neji was visibly shaken, and his heart was conflicted. How about it? If you want to fully remove the curse mark, this is necessary. Kaito added. Neji's expression shifted, but after a moment, his resolve hardened. He pulled out a kunai from his pouch and sliced his finger deeply. You don't need that much. Kaito said, half laughing, as he saw the bone-deep wound on Neji's hand. Sasuke turned his head, giving Neji a look as if he were an idiot. It's fine. Neji said, lowering his eyes. I want to know if my father would approve of what I've done. Alright then. Kaito immediately began the process of summoning the spirit. Activating his Mengekyo Sharingan, he projected a magic ray and recited an incantation. With a flash of blue light, a calm-faced young man with long hair appeared before the three of them. Sure enough, the curse mark even affects the soul. Kaito said as he immediately noticed the familiar mark on the young man's forehead. Hyuga Hisashi opened his eyes, scanning the three strangers before him. His gaze quickly passed over the two Uchiha and locked onto the boy with the Byakugan. Neji looked at his father, familiar yet distant, and childhood memories suddenly became clearer in his mind. Father. Neji stepped forward to stand in front of Hisashi. Neji. Is that you? Hisashi reached out in excitement to touch Neji, but his hand passed through Neji's body. It's me. It's been a long time, father. Neji's eyes grew slightly red. Sasuke. Kaito extended his hand toward Sasuke. Sasuke understood and handed Kaito the space talisman he had been holding. Kaito took the talisman and slipped it into his sleeve. Let's take care of that wound first. Kaito said as he walked to Neji's side, pulling out a paper talisman from his sleeve. Who are you? Hisashi had regained his composure and began to scrutinize the two people with Neji, his expression changing suddenly. Uchiha. Kaito simply nodded, his paper talisman glowing with blue light as he said to Neji. Stretch out your finger. Neji obediently extended his injured finger, and Kaito placed the talisman on it. The talisman immediately wrapped around the bleeding wound. Hello. Kaito finally turned to greet Hisashi. I am Kaito Uchiha. What is going on? Hisashi looked down at his translucent hands and then back up. I can feel it. You summoned me from the Pure Land. As for the details, I'll let Neji explain them to you. Kaito said as he pulled out a low-grade spirit vessel. For now, let me give you a body. With that, he tossed the paper doll, and Hisashi's soul was irresistibly drawn into it. Father? Neji couldn't help but cry out in surprise. The paper doll quickly expanded, transforming into a solid form of Hisashi, standing once again before Neji. Neji. Hisashi clenched his hands and couldn't resist reaching out to touch Neji's head. Neji, you've grown up. Kaito exchanged a glance with Sasuke, and the two quietly stepped aside, giving father and son space to talk. Sasuke. Kaito patted Sasuke on the shoulder. Why didn't you ask me to summon your parents? Summoning them would be pointless. Sasuke lowered his head. They can't eat or sleep. It's better to let them rest peacefully. I thought you'd be jealous of Naruto, having his father by his side, but it seems you're more mature than I expected. Kaito said with some emotion. I'm not like that guy. Sasuke turned away. I have my own things to do. Even if I summoned my parents, I wouldn't have time to spend with them. Alright, I'll respect your wishes. Kaito said. Unless it's absolutely necessary, I won't disturb their peace. No. It's just that the time hasn't come yet. Sasuke turned back. Itachi, that guy. When I find him, I'll make him repent in front of our parents. Itachi. Have you thought about how to deal with him? Kaito asked suddenly. Sasuke looked up at the sky, where rays of sunlight pierced through the leaves, casting specks of light on his face. After a moment of silence, he spoke again. The Uchiha family cemetery still needs a caretaker. Chapter 179, On the Other Side. As Neji laid out his growth experiences and current situation, Hisashi did not offer any comment. Although Neji had already made up his mind, he still felt a bit uneasy in front of his father. Hisashi simply looked at him with a gentle, loving gaze, and only after Neji finished speaking did he respond. Neji, to be honest, I can't say whether your choice is right or wrong. I'm sorry I couldn't witness your growth firsthand. Neji shook his head. It's not your fault, father. Neji, look at me. Hisashi reached out with both hands, resting them on his son's shoulders, staring at him with a serious expression. You just need to tell me, is this truly what you want in your heart? Neji lifted his gaze, looking into Hisashi's eyes. His unease gradually faded, and he firmly replied. Yes. Then there's no problem. Hisashi laughed heartily. Follow your true desires. He patted Neji's head again. Why are you looking at me like that? Is it strange that I'm not standing with the village or the clan? Neji lowered his gaze and said softly. It's because uncle showed me your letter. Father, you willingly sacrificed yourself for the village and our family. That's all in the past. Hisashi withdrew his hands. Back then, I gave my life to the village and the clan. Now, the only thing that matters to me is you, Neji. Yes, father. Neji bowed deeply, a few tears quietly falling onto the dry leaves at his feet. Let's go. Hisashi helped him up. Let's go see that Uchiha. Hearing the sound of footsteps on the dry leaves, Kaido and Sasuke turned their heads simultaneously, watching as Hisashi and Neji approached. Kaido. Hisashi politely bowed. Thank you for helping Neji. If there's anything I can do in return, please don't hesitate to ask. You're too polite, Mr. Hisashi. Kaido patted Sasuke's shoulder. It's Sasuke here who needs Neji's help. I've heard from Neji that you promised to lift the caged bird seal for him. Hisashi stood up straight and glanced at Neji. If there's anything I, as his father, can do to assist, I'd be more than happy to. Mr. Hisashi's thinking is sound. Kaido looked directly at Hisashi's forehead. From your soul, it's clear that the caged bird seal has deeply penetrated your spirit. I'll need to study it carefully to safely remove it. Hisashi nodded without hesitation. Then I'll leave it to you, Kaido. In that case, please sign this contract, Mr. Hisashi. Kaido took out a small scroll from his sleeve and handed it to him along with a pen. Hisashi accepted it, unrolled the scroll, read it carefully, and then signed his name. As I'm currently only a clone, once you've signed the contract, my main body will be able to summon you again. Kaido said, taking the scroll back. I understand. Hisashi nodded and looked at Neji once more. Father. Neji walked up to him, looking at him reluctantly. Take care of yourself, Neji. Hisashi smiled again. We will meet again. As soon as he finished speaking, accompanied by a puff of white smoke, his figure disappeared. It's fine, he's already been summoned by my main body. Kaido said to the two boys. Now, you both take care. I'll contact you if there's any progress. Wait, uncle. Sasuke suddenly spoke. What is it? Kaido raised an eyebrow. Neji's strength needs to improve. Sasuke said directly. So? Kaido looked at Neji, who had an unwilling expression, and asked again. Sasuke responded. Please grant him the Sage Art Curse Mark. Curse Mark? Neji frowned upon hearing those words, feeling uneasy. Just like me. Sasuke's face showed purple markings, and his aura surged. The Sage Art Curse Mark can directly absorb and store natural energy. Once in Sage mode, it will enhance my strength in all aspects. Neji immediately activated his Byakugan, observing Sasuke for a while. He was tempted but still hesitant. Kaido knew what he was thinking and said. Don't worry, this curse mark only serves to assist in entering Sage mode. Besides, if you trust me to lift the caged bird seal, why worry about this? Neji clenched his fists. Ultimately, his desire for power won out. He stepped forward and bowed his head before Kaido. Please. No need to be so stiff. Kaido smiled, raised his right hand, and a spiritual light appeared in his palm. He then placed his hand on the back of Neji's neck. It's done. As for how to use Sage mode, I'll leave that to Sasuke to teach you. Kaido's figure gradually became transparent. Goodbye. I hope you both managed to leave the Land of Fire safely. With that, his figure completely vanished, leaving behind a small paper figure that burned into ashes in midair. Let's go, Neji. Sasuke glanced at the sky. First, let's find a place for you to get familiar with Sage mode. You'll be in charge of planning our route. No problem. Neji said as the gray markings on his face gradually disappeared, his expression returning to calm. Follow me. At the same time, after relaying the news to the village, the Hidden Leaf Village group did not give up. Aside from Hisashi, who urgently returned to Hidden Leaf Village to handle family matters, the rest of the group, under Kakashi's command, had split up to continue their search. Kakashi-sensei. Naruto was still following Kakashi along with Sakura, his expression gloomy as he struggled to suppress his emotions. I don't understand. Sakura glanced at him but remained silent. Inwardly, however, she was boiling with emotion. What do you mean? I don't understand either. Sasuke, that cold-hearted guy, no longer considers our feelings. Naruto, stop thinking about it. Kakashi sighed and looked at Naruto. Maybe after Sasuke left the village, he already became someone different from us. I've come to terms with Sasuke never returning to Hidden Leaf Village. Naruto stomped on a tree branch. But just a couple of days ago, during our conversation, I thought we'd finally reconciled. Why did this happen? I didn't notice anything, even though it was right under my nose. If not for Shikamaru. Damn it. I'm such a fool. Naruto punched the tree in frustration. This isn't your fault, Naruto. Kakashi landed beside him. Your goal is to become Hokage, while Sasuke's goal has always been different from yours, as has Neji's. He sighed and continued. People with different goals will walk different paths and have different stances. This is completely normal. Let's go. Instead of overthinking things, we should focus on finding their trail. Kakashi glanced at the ninja hounds ahead before leaping forward again. Chapter 180, Neji slightly bent his body, lowered his legs, with one hand forward and the other backward. Gentle fist art, 8 trigrams 64 palms. In an instant, his hands moved rapidly, creating countless afterimages in front of him. 2 palms. 4 palms. 8 palms. 16 palms. Thud, 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 thud. His index and middle fingers of both hands pressed together, continuously striking the trunk of a large tree, scattering countless wood chips. 32 palms. 64 palms. How was it? Sasuke, seeing Neji stop, walked up behind him. Ho! Neji withdrew his hands and looked at the densely packed holes on the tree, smiling in satisfaction. Although Sage Chakra is difficult to control, I can only use 64 palms for now, but it has greatly enhanced the strength of my body and the power of my gentle fist. Sasuke glanced at the devastated tree and nodded. He then asked. The gentle fist of the Hyuga clan excels in both offense and defense, but do they have any long-range attack techniques? Neji nodded, assuming a stance once again. 8 trigrams air palm. Visible chakra surged from his palm, shattering a distant rock. Sasuke's Sharingan spun as he observed. A straight line attack with only one strike. It's too easy to dodge. That's only easy for someone with the Sharingan like you. Neji retorted as he withdrew his hand. Although the Byakugan and Sharingan are different, they are both Jujutsu, so perhaps there are some commonalities. Sasuke said with his arms crossed. The strange thing is, while the Sharingan can evolve, the Byakugan cannot. That's not strange at all. Neji brushed off his clothes and sat on a rock. Awakening the Sharingan is much harder than the Byakugan. Maybe. Sasuke replied as he sat down on another rock and took out his ninja tool pouch from his waist. Are there members of the Hyuga clan who can't awaken the Byakugan? Neji gave him a strange look. Of course, every clan has some ordinary people who can't become ninjas. Sasuke pulled out some rations from his pouch and handed them to Neji. I'm not talking about them. In that case, no. Any ordinary person who can become a ninja can awaken the Byakugan. By comparison, not many members of the Uchiha clan can awaken the Sharingan. Sasuke said as he took out another portion of food. And evolving the Sharingan is even more difficult. Neji chewed on the jerky in his mouth, feeling a bit annoyed. Are you bragging about unlocking the Mangekyo Sharingan? Sasuke touched his lower eyelid, revealing the complex pattern in his eyes before suddenly breaking into a smile. I'm not like the Uchiha of the past. Such a show-off. Neji looked away. Humphrey, how are you any different? Sasuke shook his head, then suddenly thought of something and said. In the past, the Uchiha needed intense emotional trauma to awaken the Mangekyo, but I didn't. Is it because you're exceptionally gifted? Neji rolled his Byakugan in annoyance. No, it's because my uncle taught me a special secret technique. Sasuke said, looking curiously at Neji's eyes. I wonder if you could evolve the Byakugan if you practiced that secret technique. There's no such thing. The Byakugan doesn't have different levels. At most, some members have pure Byakugan. Neji denied. The branch family's Byakugan is also restricted by the caged bird seal. So, after removing your curse mark, would your talent become even stronger? Sasuke asked with interest. I'm not sure. Neji shook his head. Let's not talk about this. What are your plans next? Sasuke became serious. I plan to leave the land of fire and search for traces of Itachi Uchiha. No plan at all? The ninja world is vast, where are we supposed to look? Neji, for the umpteenth time, felt that Sasuke was unreliable. He looks smart, but all he does is act without thinking things through. Don't worry. Sasuke seemed confident. We just need to wait. Micros will gather intelligence. Fine. Neji was running out of patience. You're the captain, you call the shots. The next day, the two continued their journey, heading towards the land of rain. As they neared the border, Hidden Leaf Village's border patrols suddenly became more frequent. This isn't going to work. Neji activated his Byakugan to observe. The border patrols also have members of the Hyuga clan, and combined with the Inuzuka and Ibarame clans, it will be very difficult to cross the border undetected. Plus, as your crow just reported, the pursuers aren't far behind. He turned to Sasuke. We need to make a decision. Sasuke stroked his chin and thought for a minute before finally saying, let's break through. Neji nearly fell off the tree. That's impossible. There are at least 1,000 soldiers stationed at this border post. If we get entangled, we won't be able to escape. Are we going to ask for help again? Sasuke grumbled. That would make me seem too useless. Was it really the right decision to follow this childish guy? Neji once again regretted his choice. Sasuke, feeling humiliated by Neji's disdainful gaze, asked angrily. Then what do you suggest? I'm not getting mad. Neji took a deep breath and finally decided. We'll change our route. Let's head south to the coast and enter the land of rivers by sea. Fine. Sasuke raised his chin, signaling for Neji to lead the way. You lead. No problem. Neji jumped ahead. And have your crows stay alert. Got it. Sasuke followed closely behind. TCH. Neji suddenly stopped in his tracks. What's wrong? Sasuke leapt onto the same tree. Bad luck. We've been spotted by members of the Hyuga clan. Neji said with a grim expression. Only the Hyuga? Sasuke found it odd. Yes. Neji moved again. There are only 2 of them. We'll confront them and defeat them quickly. The 2 sides quickly closed the distance, and soon, a male and a female Hyuga appeared in Sasuke's line of sight. Neji. The male youth greeted him first. You've really caused quite a stir this time. Brother Shoyo, Sister Natsu. Neji looked at the 2 with a blank expression. Are you here to capture me? Neji, that's not a very nice thing to say. Hyuga Shoyo, who was short with a baby face, puffed his cheeks angrily at Neji. Brother. Hyuga Natsu slapped the back of Shoyo's head. This is not the time for unnecessary words. Alright, Shoyo said, placing his hands on his hips and grinning. Listen up, Neji. I'm here to help you. Brother Shoyo. Neji looked at him seriously. Do you even know what you're saying? Hyuga Natsu pushed Shoyo aside. Neji, it's true. After receiving the news, my brother has been happy for you. That's right. And little Natsu too. Shoyo smiled brightly, without any hint of darkness. Neji, as members of the branch family, we all have an undeniable desire for freedom. So take flight, and carry our hopes into the unknown future. I told you to stop saying strange things. Natsu smacked him again. Neji, Sasuke, follow us. We'll cover for you to cross the border. Chapter 181, No way. It's too dangerous. Neji firmly refused. Brother Shoyo, Sister Natsu, you 2 should go. Sasuke and I will leave on our own. What's wrong, Neji? Don't you trust us? Shoyo tilted his head. That's right, I don't trust you. Neji coldly stared at him. Step aside, or we'll have no choice but to knock you down first. He. Shoyo tilted his head back and laughed again. Neji is worried about dragging us into this, huh? Such a good kid. I said, step aside. Neji growled. I've already made my decision. Shoyo's expression became serious, and his unwavering gaze intimidated Neji. Don't worry about us, Neji. Natsu added. My brother and I have already made a plan. Neji's face darkened. Do you 2 even realize? If the main branch finds out, you both will be finished. Maybe, but we still want to pursue a different future. Shoyo looked Neji in the eye seriously. Perhaps, the chance to change the Hyuga clan lies with you, Neji. Brother Shoyo, Sister Natsu. Neji's expression became complicated. Thank you. No need to thank us. Shoyo instantly grinned again with pride. Just then. Swish. A dark figure flashed by, and suddenly Sasuke appeared behind the 2 siblings. He withdrew his palms from their necks. Natsu collapsed. Damn it. Shoyo's vacant eyes widened. I clearly saw it. You saw it, but your body couldn't react in time. Neji leaped down from the tree branch and caught the falling siblings, carefully placing them on the ground. Let's go. He glanced at the unconscious pair, then jumped up again, heading south. Leaving them unconscious like that, won't they be in danger? Sasuke asked, following beside him. Neji didn't look back. No, the patrol team will arrive in that area soon. Sasuke turned to look at the 2 lying on the ground from a distance. It seems many in the Hyuga branch will support you. Of course. Even though we're of the same blood, our statuses are completely different. Though we're brothers, just being born later condemns us to slavery. Who would be willing to accept that? Neji sped up, his voice trembling slightly. I didn't think much about it before, just wanted my own freedom. But now. You can't leave behind those who share your fate, can you? Sasuke seemed to understand. Yes. That's why I must become stronger, strong enough to reform the Hyuga clan's traditions. Neji's voice became firm. I understand. Without strength, there's no future. Even if you have treasures, others will try to take them. Sasuke's tone turned cold. Right. The two of them swiftly moved through the forest, adjusting their route using Neji's Byakugan and Sasuke's crow reconnaissance. Hey! What happened here? A team of patrolling ninjas discovered Shoyo and Natsu lying on the ground. Medic ninja. A female medic ninja rushed over to check on them and then let out a sigh of relief. They're fine, no injuries, just knocked unconscious. She stood up. They'll wake up soon. Captain. One of the patrol members asked. Should we take them back to the camp? Let's wait until they wake up and ask them. The patrol captain stepped forward. We'll stay here, and you all, keep watch around the area. Yes. The patrol members scattered and hid. Yanji, can you wake them up early? The captain looked down at the unconscious siblings. If they were only knocked out without being harmed, it was probably Neji and Sasuke. We need to know where they went. No need, Captain. This kid is already waking up. Yanji watched as Shoyo's eyelids fluttered. Ugh. Shoyo struggled to open his eyes, dazed for a moment, then quickly sat up with ease. Little Natsu. He anxiously looked around, then reached out to hold the still unconscious Natsu. Natsu. Are you okay? She's fine. She'll wake up soon. Yanji reassured him. Shoyo looked up, as if only just noticing them, and gratefully smiled at the two of them. Thank you. Thank you for saving us. Name? What happened here? The captain remained calm, asking coldly. Why were you two here? I'm sorry, we acted on our own. Shoyo immediately bowed. I'm Hyuga Shoyo, and this is my sister, Natsu. After hearing about Neji's defection, I got so angry that I rushed out with my sister. So, you encountered Neji and Sasuke Uchiha? The captain asked. Yes. Shoyo nodded obediently. The captain squatted beside him. Do you know where they went? No, I don't. Shoyo immediately shook his head. As soon as we met them, both my sister and I were knocked out. We don't know where they went. I see. The captain said no more and stood up, shouting orders. You all heard it. Now, carefully search the area for clues. Yes. The patrol members, hidden in the shadows, immediately reappeared and began searching the surroundings carefully. Shoyo didn't pay attention to their movements. He only lowered his head, looking worriedly at Natsu, still unconscious in his arms. At that moment, the group suddenly heard additional voices. Everyone. What's going on here? Might Guy appeared with Rock Lee, Tenten, and Shino, the four of them suddenly standing before everyone. Might Guy. The captain stepped forward. Hello, have you found any trace of Neji? Might Guy's tone was anxious. Yes, those two, Shoyo and Natsu, encountered Neji and Sasuke Uchiha here. Unfortunately, they were knocked out and don't know where the two went. My team is searching for clues now. I see. Might Guy sighed, placing his hands on his hips. Looks like we've lost track of them again. Sensei. Rock Lee looked at him with concern. I'm fine. I'm already back in high spirits. Might Guy perked up in an instant. Think carefully, Lee, Tenten, Shino. Which direction would Neji and Sasuke take? Well, Rock Lee and Tenten couldn't figure it out. South. Shino said confidently, pushing up his sunglasses. If you're asking why, it's because all the border regions are heavily guarded by leaf ninjas. Security is tight right now. But if they take a detour south and go out to sea, they won't encounter too many obstacles. Chapter 182, This young man has a point, said the patrol team captain. He continued. Unlike them, who need to avoid the patrol squads along the way, if you speed up and head directly to the southern coast, you might intercept them there. Oh, I see. Guy quickly regained his high spirits. Then let's move out immediately. Target, southern coast. Yes, Guy-sensei. Lee responded enthusiastically. No, that's just the most likely scenario. Shino replied calmly. We can't be certain they'll go there. No problem. Guy raised a thumbs up, flashing his big, white teeth. Our other teammates are taking action too. We'll handle the south. Shino nodded. Understood. Then. Guy crouched into a running stance, and Lee quickly followed suit. Let's go. The two dashed off at top speed. Let's go too. Tenten said to Shino, and they began to follow. I really don't fit in with these guys' style. Shino muttered, adjusting his sunglasses before reluctantly joining them. The captain watched them disappear into the distance, then shifted his attention to the now awake Natsu and Shoyo. Let's go. Take these two back to camp, he ordered. He approached the siblings and looked them over. To be honest, I can't tell if you're telling the truth, so I'll hand you over. With that, he turned and led the way back to camp, with his team surrounding the siblings and following closely. Shoyo and Natsu exchanged a silent glance and said nothing more. One day earlier, at the Hyuga residence in Hidden Leaf Village, Hayashi Hyuga called an urgent clan meeting upon his return. Outside the meeting room, Hinata anxiously waited, nervously wringing her hands. Finally, the meeting concluded. Clan members with some status in the family exited with various expressions on their faces, all leaving in a hurry. None of them noticed Hinata standing by. Hayashi was the last to leave, and Hinata immediately gathered her courage to approach him. Father, she said, bowing her head before him. Hinata? Seeing his daughter looking so hesitant, Hayashi grew annoyed. What are you doing here? Father. Hinata clenched her fists and raised her head, meeting his gaze despite her trembling legs. Neji-san. That traitor. That ungrateful son. Hayashi grew angrier at the mention of Neji's name. What are you planning to do? Plead for that traitor? Father. Hinata held on to his sleeve. What will happen to Neji-san? A traitor to the clan. Hayashi said coldly, his face darkening. He no longer has any reason to exist. How? How could that be? Hinata's hands trembled, and her face paled. Father. Please. Silence. This is not something you should be involved in. Hayashi barked, shaking off her hand and walking away without looking back. Left alone in the courtyard, Hinata slowly crouched down, hiding her face in her knees as she silently wept. Neji-san, please run. Leave the land of fire safely. I'm still so useless, Naruto-kun. If it were you, would you be able to do more? In the Hokage's office, Tsunade leaned her head on her crossed hands, her face stern as she looked at a rather uncomfortable Minato. Tsunade-sama? Minato spoke cautiously. Tsunade didn't respond, still staring at him intently. Minato scratched his head nervously. Tsunade-sama? TCH. Tsunade slapped her desk, her face darkened. Minato. What is that man planning? I don't know. Minato replied without averting his gaze. You don't know? Tsunade pointed at him. Wasn't it you who brought Sasuke back to Hidden Leaf Village? What did you promise me then? I'm sorry. Minato said apologetically. I failed to prevent this. We overlooked the Uchiha clan's matters, and now they've gone and interfered with the Hyuga as well. Tsunade slapped the table again, creating a few cracks. Does Hidden Leaf Village have no backbone anymore? Minato looked visibly miserable. Kaito has really gotten me into trouble. I don't care what you do. Tsunade said, regaining her calm while still fixing her sharp gaze on Minato. Kaito Uchiha must give me an explanation for this. Otherwise, Hidden Leaf Village will become a laughingstock. I understand. Minato nodded, giving her a weak smile. Then, I'll be off, Tsunade-sama. Go. Tsunade dismissed him tiredly. After leaving the Hokage's office, Minato began to worry. What should I do? Those two Uchihas are nothing but trouble. Especially Kaito, he didn't even give me a way to reach him. Should I bring Neji back? Forget it, I'll wait. Let's see if Neji really manages to escape. This might not be a bad thing for the Hyuga clan. Lost in thought, Minato walked off, eventually deciding to watch the situation unfold. Outside the Hokage's office window, a paper doll hidden beneath the eaves trembled silently. Inside it, Denzo's soul was seething with rage. Curse it. The Uchiha clan has ill intentions for Hidden Leaf Village, as I suspected. He silently roared, his expression twisted. And the Hyuga clan is starting to act up too. I don't believe for a second those two brats are behind this. This is definitely a plot. That sly fox Hayashi must be hedging his bets, sacrificing a branch member genius to secure both sides. It's such an obvious scheme, and yet Tsunade is completely blind to it. Useless. She hasn't even put the Hyuga under surveillance for harboring a rogue ninja. Tsunade is clearly unfit to be Hokage. She's nowhere near as competent as I am. And that fool Minato, who undoubtedly betrayed us for the sake of revival. Tsunade foolishly trusts him with the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. Ridiculous. The means for revival are right before their eyes, yet these idiots haven't seized it. It infuriates me. Just look, without me, Hidden Leaf Village is rapidly crumbling. They're all useless. Without my watchful eye, Hidden Leaf Village is heading straight downhill. At this rate, Hidden Leaf Village is doomed. What's going on? Tsunade rubbed her arms, feeling a sudden chill. Tsunade-sama. Shizune quickly closed a window. The weather's turning chilly. Please take care of yourself. TCH, I'm fine. Tsunade grumbled, feeling slightly better. I am the top medical ninja, after all. Outside the window, Denzo's silent, furious rant continued. Why? Why let the Hokage position fall into such a fool's hands? I refuse to accept this. Chapter 183, Uchiha Residence, Mount Hama. Madara pushed open the study door and walked straight in, addressing Kaido, who was engrossed in reading at his desk. You're thinking of the Hyuga clan again. Senior, it was that boy Sasuke acting on his own. I'm just cleaning up after him. Kaido glanced up at Madara, then returned to the scroll in his hands. Hey. Madara chuckled lightly, took a seat across from Kaido, and propped his chin on his hand, watching him with amusement. Kaido continued reading, unfazed, only saying, Senior? There's no need for such pleasantries. Madara said playfully. That boy Sasuke's actions were surely part of your plan all along. Kaido remained absorbed in his reading without responding. Or, perhaps he believes it was all his own idea, when in reality, you've been guiding him all along. Madara observed keenly, studying Kaido. What is it you want? Honestly, Senior. Kaido finally looked up and met Madara's gaze. Haven't you heard the saying, see through but don't reveal? You just saying whatever you want. Madara scoffed. Recently, I've learned more and more about the Otsutsuki clan. Kaido suddenly changed the topic. Madara silently watched him. Here, look at these two portraits. Kaido took out two drawings from his desk and handed them to Madara. Madara took them and laid them on the floor for a better look. So, this is Otsutsuki Kaguya. Madara pointed at the portrait with his finger. Both portraits depicted the same figure. A woman with horns on her head and long hair trailing to the ground. Yes, these are her original form and her form after consuming the god tree's fruit. Kaido explained. The difference is in the eyes. Madara looked at the second portrait, pointing at the forehead. That eye seems to combine both the Sharingan and the Rinnegan. So, even though both the Byakugan and Sharingan bloodlines come from Kaguya. Kaido said softly. Ultimately, the Byakugan is the true inheritance of the Otsutsuki clan. He chuckled suddenly. Whereas the Sharingan's power was awakened by the god tree's fruit. So, you plan to study the Otsutsuki clan through the Hyuga clan? Madara tossed the portrait back onto the table. That's right. Although Hagoromo and Hamura were both Kaguya's children, they were fundamentally different. Kaido stood up, looking somewhat excited. The birth of the god tree's fruit drained this world's energy. Hagoromo, with the Rinnegan, was influenced by this world, while Hamura, with the Byakugan, represented Kaguya's own power. What significance does knowing this have? Madara asked, sounding disinterested. It's significant, of course. Kaido's pride was showing. That's why, as the true child of this world, I, Kaido Uchiha, miraculously emerged from the Uchiha clan. Ha ha ha. Madara laughed wildly, and if he weren't merely in the form of a paper puppet, he might have laughed to the point of tears. You. Truly. He pointed at Kaido. In a way, have surpassed me completely. He leaned close to Kaido, their eyes meeting. In terms of self-love, no one can surpass you. I, Madara, recognize you as the strongest. I'm serious. Kaido replied earnestly. Alright. Madara collapsed onto the floor in feigned exhaustion, waving a hand. Continue. Humphrey. The Uchiha clan descends from Kaguya's bloodline. Why would these monsters place their hopes in me to defeat her? Kaido gracefully sat down again, unfurled his fan, and continued. I was someone who wasn't meant to be born. Madara lay on his side on the floor, propping his head with one hand and signaling to Kaido. Go ahead with your performance. When my mother was carrying me, she was frail, and I was supposed to be stillborn. Kaido continued. I was cut from my mother's womb by a doctor. Madara showed no reaction. The key lies with the doctor. Kaido covered his mouth with his fan and said mysteriously. He was someone who shouldn't exist in this world. Madara continued with a half-hearted When Uri found me, that doctor was still alive, so she looked into his dreams. Kaido's voice lowered. The doctor's soul didn't belong to this world. Oh? Madara seemed slightly interested. An outsider like the Otsutsuki clan? No, his soul came from an entirely different universe. Kaido said with regret. Unfortunately, he's long dead. So, what are you getting at? Madara asked, looking bored once more. An unknown soul crossed space and time, traversing different universes, all so that I, someone who wasn't meant to be, could truly be born in this world. Kaido spread his arms, eyes filled with fervor. Is this not a true miracle? Boring. Madara pushed himself up, quickly opened the study door, and stretched lazily. I'm going to get some sun. He said, walking out. Huh? Kaido stood there with his arms still outstretched, watching Madara's back as he disappeared, looking surprised. Then, He slumped onto the desk, disheartened. How could he be so unsupportive? He muttered. I was so excited when I first learned about it, even Miss Cheery and the yokai were amazed. Oh well. That old man must be jealous of me. Better to get back to researching the caged bird seal. Kaido organized the scrolls on his desk, held them in his arms, and headed to the laboratory. As he walked down the hallway, he opened the door to the lab. Kaido-kun. Hayashi, in his spirit form, floated over. Mr. Hayashi, how are you adjusting here? Kaito walked over to the desk and set down the scrolls. Nothing much to adjust to. Hayashi floated beside him. After all, I'm already dead. Except. He hesitated. Neji. I understand. Kaido arranged a stack of papers on his desk, then looked at Hayashi. Worried about Neji? He finished tidying the papers and looked at Hayashi. Don't worry about those boys. Sasuke has a powerful senior secretly watching over him. I see, that puts my mind at ease. Hayashi's expression softened. Kaito nodded, moving to an empty space nearby. Just assist me in researching the caged bird seal. He took out a brush and began drawing symbols on the floor. Once the seal is lifted for Neji, he'll be able to fully realize his talents. Yes. Hayashi said proudly. Not to boast, but Neji is the most gifted among the Hyuga clan. His talents are indeed remarkable. Kaito said casually. Rest assured, for Sasuke's sake, I'll train him well. Thank you. Hayashi said, bowing gratefully. Since arriving here, Hayashi's worldview had been reshaped multiple times, and he now understood the weight of Kaido's promise for Neji. At this moment, he smiled in relief. Neji, perhaps the path you've chosen is destined to be challenging, but you will surely go further than any other Hyuga before you. Chapter 184. A few days had passed, and Sasuke and Neji were already close to the southern coast. At the moment, they were hiding in the dense canopy, each resting on a branch to regain their strength. Neji had deactivated his Byakugan, leaving the task of keeping watch to the crows. On their journey, Hidden Leaf Village hadn't sent additional pursuers. They only needed to deal with the border troops, Kakashi, and the others, as well as some members of the Hyuga clan. Thanks to the presence of the Byakugan and the crow summons, they had managed to completely avoid the border troops and Kakashi's team. A few times, however, the Hyuga ninjas sent after them had detected them, though Neji and Sasuke had managed to shake them off each time. My uncle is probably afraid I'll sway the members of the branch family. Neji guessed. So he only sent the clansmen who are fully loyal to him. Other members of the clan, like your relatives who wanted to help you before, are probably being kept hidden, right? Sasuke said. I'm not sure. Neji reflected. The Hyuga clan has always adhered strictly to tradition. Relations between clansmen aren't exactly close. The implication was that personalities like Hinata's were considered odd within the Hyuga clan. Maybe they're just keeping things from you because you're young. Sasuke guessed irresponsibly. No, it's more likely because I'm too closely related to the main family. Even if there is a faction secretly plotting against the main family, they wouldn't risk involving me. Neji said, as if he'd figured things out. Huh? Sasuke looked at him in surprise. Back during the Chunin exams, from the way you fought Hinata, it looked like you had a serious grudge against the main family. Neji was silent for a moment, then continued. In the final round of the Chunin exams, remember you were late, and I lost to Naruto. Sasuke thought for a moment and nodded. I can guess why you lost. Your gentle fist wasn't very effective against someone with a tailed beast's chakra like Naruto. After the match, my uncle gave me the letters my father had left. After reading them, I understood my father's choices, and I no longer held any resentment towards Lady Hinata. I see. Sasuke said, frowning. Honestly, Hinata isn't cut out to be a ninja. She is too kind-hearted, which doesn't align well with the life of a ninja. Neji shook his head. Sasuke added. But I didn't expect there would be branch members who were truly loyal to the main family in your Hyuga clan. It's a deeply rooted tradition in the clan. Neji explained. Many view their loyalty as an honor, especially the elders who are advanced in age. Maybe so, just as I can't understand the loyalty some people have toward Hidden Leaf Village. Sasuke said, looking up at the sky. For us ninjas from large clans, our loyalty to the village is secondary. Neji said bluntly. It's mostly because the clans and villages' interests align. In the time I've been here, I've read a lot. Sasuke added. Historically, ninjas were the least loyal to anything. Before the shinobi villages were established, ninja loyalty was only to the mission, not to a particular master. That's why the Warring States period was so chaotic. Neji nodded. Are you fully rested? Sasuke stood up. Let's go. Neji activated his Byakugan again. We're very close to the coast now. There's a port up ahead. Should we take a ship? Sure, I want to rest and get myself cleaned up. Sasuke said, looking distastefully at his slightly dirty clothes. TCH, be cautious. Neji disagreed slightly. We can't be sure there aren't hidden Leaf Village ninja ahead. Relax, we'll just use transformation jutsu to blend in. Sasuke formed a hand seal. As long as we don't encounter a large group, we can escape easily. With a puff, Sasuke transformed into an ordinary-looking boy. Fine. Neji relented, unable to stand his own dirty appearance either. With that, they used the transformation jutsu to disguise themselves as civilians and headed toward the bustling port city ahead. TCH. As soon as they entered the city, Neji frowned. What's wrong? Sasuke asked, puzzled. We've been found. Neji said in a low voice. By whom? Sasuke immediately became alert. Neji dropped the transformation jutsu, and his Byakugan's fierce look made the surrounding crowd quickly steer clear of them. Guy-sensei is guarding the port with Lee and Tenten, and even worse, Shino is there too. So, Sasuke cancelled his transformation jutsu as well. We were discovered by Shino's insects the moment we entered the city? That's right. Because the insect's chakra is so faint, I only noticed them at close range. Neji said, disappointed in himself. Nothing we can do now. Sasuke put a hand on the hilt of his sword, looking at the bustling civilians around them with a frown. Let's leave the city. You actually worry about harming civilians? Neji gave him an amused look. Hey. Sasuke scowled. Do you have some kind of misconception about me? Enough, they're closing in. Neji said, jumping onto the rooftop. Let's go. Sasuke followed. The two quickly jumped out of the city and headed for the coast. Neji. Lee's voice echoed from afar as Team Guy leaped over the city walls to pursue them. As they neared the beach, Neji stopped. No point in running. We'd lose in a contest of stamina against Guy-sensei. TCH, and in a fight too. Sasuke knew the 8 gates formation all too well. Unless we can master that technique you mentioned that allows us to fly using natural energy. Neji said with a hint of nervousness. I'll give it a try. Sasuke considered it, reasoning that if Madara had done it so easily, he should be able to as well. You. Neji looked at him, at a loss for words. Where did he get this confidence? Despite all this time, he hadn't learned the technique. At this moment, he once again felt he might have made the wrong choice. Don't worry. Sasuke reassured him, sensing Neji's growing frustration. I have a highly skilled comrade watching over us in the shadows. We won't get caught. Phew. Neji let out a breath, feeling slightly reassured. Although that person might not be able to defeat Guy-sensei, as long as they could stall him, he and Sasuke could escape from Lee and the others. Just then. Swish. 4 figures appeared, surrounding Sasuke and Neji. Neji. Guy-sensei looked at the 2 boys standing back to back with a pained expression. Why are you doing this? My eternal rival, Kakashi, are we destined to suffer the same fate? Neji smiled slightly. Guy-sensei, you know why. I know. I understand the suffering you've endured as a member of the Hyuga branch family. Tears sparkled in Guy-sensei's eyes. But becoming a rogue ninja isn't the only solution. I can help you. Thank you, Guy-sensei. Neji shook his head. You are a great teacher, and I've always respected you. But sometimes, you're too naive. Oh. No. Guy clutched his chest dramatically. Am I really such a failure of a teacher? And I was so proud of myself. Neji, you jerk. Lee shouted angrily, glaring at him. How could you say that about Guy-sensei? No, he's kind of right. Tenten and Shino thought at the same time. Guy straightened up again, hands on his hips. No matter what, as your teacher, I must take you back. Neji looked down and said gravely. Even if it means I might lose my life, Guy-sensei? No, 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 no. Guy shook his head vigorously. Not at all. He then gave a thumbs up, flashing his bright white teeth. Don't worry. I'll vouch for you. Even if it means being imprisoned, I'll wait for you to be released. No, the Hyuga clan, my uncle, won't allow me to live. Escaping the caged bird seal has already crossed his bottom line. Neji said, his gaze sharp. Chapter 185, I'll do my best to protect you. Guy stepped forward, his voice filled with determination. But before that, you need to come back with us. No need to say anything more, Guy-sensei. Neji replied, tightening the straps of his backpack as he settled into a gentle fist stance. I won't be going with you. Are you challenging me, Neji? Guy's expression grew serious as he stood up straight, one hand behind his back and the other palm raised forward. Then let's speak through our fists. Show me your resolve, Neji. Guy-sensei. Lee suddenly raised his hand, staring intensely at Neji. Please, allow me to take on Neji. No, Lee. Guy said earnestly. This time, I need to step in myself. This is when I truly fulfill my role as a teacher. Understood. Lee obediently lowered his raised hand. Neji. Sasuke glanced over. Are you really going to face off against your teacher alone? I want to see just how far I'm from Guy-sensei. Neji replied, keeping his focus firmly on Guy. Hopefully, I won't get knocked out in one blow. Fine then. Sasuke raised his voice. Hey. How about we leave this to the two of them? Let's stand by and watch. The rest of the group shifted their attention to Guy. Stand down, Lee, Tenten, Shino. Guy commanded without moving, his voice steady. Understood. The three responded, stepping back and creating space between themselves and Guy. Sasuke, meanwhile, swiftly moved to another position. Watch out, Neji. Guy warned before his figure vanished. Leaf whirlwind. Reappearing above Neji, Guy's powerful kick came crashing down toward Neji's head. Neji quickly ducked, dodging the fierce kick, and countered by thrusting his hands, fingers extended, towards Guy's other leg. Not that easy. Guy twisted his torso midair, evading the gentle fist. At the same time, his right leg descended like a powerful wind, aiming a direct strike downwards. Neji pushed off, darting forward to Guy's side, his movements fluid as his wrist flicked like a serpent, his fingers aiming sharply for Guy's waist. Guy didn't turn, he punched out sideways, using his reach to meet the Neji's strike. Neji shifted his stance, sidestepping the iron fist and aiming his fingers at Guy's arm. For a moment, the two exchanged strikes, both dodging and countering each other, every move intense yet strangely harmonious. Guy's punches and kicks carried immense force, creating small craters on the ground as stones scattered around. Neji, with his swift footwork, weaved in and out, his hands striking with precise control. Watching closely, Lee muttered in frustration. Darn it. Neji's gotten stronger again. He's actually holding off Guy-sensei using just basic gentle fist techniques. Tenten observed, astonished. But he won't last long. Shino stated calmly, his expression obscured behind his jacket and glasses. Guy-sensei's speed is only increasing. Sasuke, meanwhile, activated his Sharingan, observing and copying Guy's taijutsu silently. Neji. You've improved. Guy exclaimed as he dodged Neji's strike. You truly are my talented student. Then he landed a punch on Neji's face. At the last moment, Neji leaned back, deflecting the blow as he used the punch's momentum to propel himself backward. Neji. Tenten gasped as she watched him fly back. Neji's feet hit the ground, skidding and leaving grooves in the earth as he forced himself to stop. Wiping the blood from his face with his sleeve, he spat a bit of blood onto the ground. Looks like I still have a long way to go, Guy-sensei. Neji said, his gaze firmly locked on Guy. I see there's still a big gap between us. He took his stance again, exuding a completely different aura from before. Are you ready? Guy adjusted his stance, gesturing for Neji to come. Gentle fist art, 8 trigrams 128 palms. Neji surged forward, his hands moving fluidly, striking with precision. 4 palms. 8 palms. 16 palms. Guy met Neji's strikes, parrying with accuracy as their arms moved in a blur. 32 palms. 64 palms. Neji's strikes grew sharper, relentlessly pushing against Guy's defenses. 64 palms. 128 palms. For a moment, the battlefield fell silent. Their fists were planted firmly against each other's chest. Ugh! Neji coughed blood, flying backward again. Guy barely staggered, recovering quickly, though blood trickled from the corner of his mouth, a testament to the internal damage inflicted by the gentle fist. Neji stood shakily, clutching his chest. Cough. That one punch broke several ribs. And you did well, Neji. Guy said, beaming with pride as he showed his gleaming teeth. That last strike definitely damaged my insides. Was this really the time for compliments? Tenten and Shino thought in sync. Lee, on the other hand, was fully absorbed, cheering as he hopped excitedly. Sasuke silently observed, analyzing every move. Looks like I still have a long way to go. Neji said, wiping the blood from his mouth with his sleeve, assuming his stance once more. Now, I'll use my newfound power. Oh? You have new strength? Show me. Guy assumed his stance, gesturing again. A faint gray pattern appeared on Neji's face, giving his activated Byakugan a more intimidating appearance. His presence intensified with each passing second. Impressive, Neji. Guy laughed as his chakra erupted around him. Then, I'll respond with my best technique. Gate of view, open. Green, tangible chakra erupted from Guy, the sealed chakra points that the gentle fist had closed bursting open. Here I come. With his hair spiked, Guy appeared beside Neji, raising his fist. Rotation. Neji responded instantly, spinning as his defense, now larger and faster, countered Guy's explosive punch. Impressive, impressive, impressive. Guy's body blurred as he circled the rotating chakra shield, raining down punches. Countless fists appeared around the outside of Neji's rotation. TSK. Sasuke, observing the battle, frowned. The gap in strength was too large. Neji wouldn't hold out much longer. Chapter 186, Neji was using the 8 trigrams palms rotation to deflect Guy's fierce attack, leaving both Lee and Tenten deeply shocked.